All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Assemble. My name is High Ruler, and today is episode number 7 of your Avengers Weekly Recap, joined as always by Stardust. Stardust, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm super tired. Long weekend of work, and I'm just happy to be off and get a day off tomorrow. But otherwise, man, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. We can talk about some Avengers stuff. So, obviously, guys, today, coming off a busy last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there's actually not a lot of news coming out this week. So, we're going to spend some time today, go over some questions that you guys have sent in, both on Twitter as well as the Discord. And we'll just try and get through as many questions as you guys have. A lot of questions about the future of the game, which I'm happy to talk about. I'm sure Stardust is as well. But we'll talk
Yeah.
a little bit first about the dev stream on Friday. They did talk about a few things coming to the game. Obviously, the first one being the kind of color matching for the Avengers. Stardust, you want to talk about what you think that's going to be?
Yeah, so basically, boys and girls, the recolors, they have meaning now. Yes! We know. But all right. So what I think it is before Future Imperfect came out, the marketplace had literally a row of the pre-order skins, which obviously they're classic looks, right? So
Yes.
I think I don't think it's going to be an update in the sense of like, oh, there's like a little menu, like, oh, you want them all black? If you have them in like your inventory, then make them all black. I think it'll literally just be a bunch of matching outfits at the bottom, like similar to I don't know what they're called, but the quantum time travel suits that they wore in Endgame, sort of thing. I think it'll
Oh,
just be like that.
you think they're bringing out like whole new outfits that match together?
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Because Andy
yeah.
used the word variant when like he like word dropped variant when he was talking about this. And variant to me, I mean, variant can go either way. So you think it's brand new costumes? Okay, that's interesting. I actually
I don't think it's anything mental. Like I don't think they're all
sure.
going to be like dressed in like death metal uniforms or whatever. But I just think that it will
So
be
you're
like,
saying we're not getting the end game costumes this early? The quantum suits?
oh
Okay.
man, like
Okay.
if we do, I'll be shocked.
Okay. So you think it's just 7, 8, like 8 new costumes at this point, all dropping Thursday.
Yeah, 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 I do. Yeah, that's
I-
right.
I've never heard someone so optimistic about that. Because, like, for me, I'll explain what I thought it was. I thought it was there's going to be a new menu within your cosmetic options, and you could just hit, you say you're hovering over a Captain America costume. It gives you a button that match all to this costume. So, like, every character will somehow match, whether it's color or like color scheme to that costume. I thought that was a little out there, but you're talking about like
No,
8 new
I mean, no.
costumes.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest, right? Just to
Okay, yeah, be
actually like
honest.
lower that down a bit, right? So yes, I do think that it's going to be a row of like matching costumes, but I don't think it's going to be anything brand new. If it is, it won't be anything like amazing. Like, for example, the Virgin Media skins or Verizon, where it's like red,
Yeah,
black, and white of just recolors of the stuff they've sort of got. I think it'll
sure.
just be that. I think they'll just release those colors, recolors at the bottom, and they'll charge maybe they'll be rare recolors because they're basically recolors of their iconics, and that'll be that.
Okay, so Stardust is going
'Cause-
with costumes. I'm going with a menu change. Okay, we're on totally different ends of the spectrum here.
let's fight.
Okay, I'm just saying. Yeah, we don't always have to agree, man. I just didn't expect us to be this far apart on what this is going to be. I mean, I think the key
Oh,
takeaway is that Andy.
we need to go couple counseling.
Oh
Clearly,
God.
we need to go couple
The,
counseling.
the the key thing that Andy said is to not think this is something revolutionary or big. So to me, either of those two changes, whether it's a team costume set or whether it's the menu kind of everyone matched to this costume, either of those aren't really that big. But I think it's so tough because like the way he said it was like if you want to match your Avengers, this will make you happy. If it's like matching your Avengers with brand new costumes that you have to buy each costume individually, like you know what I mean? Like that's really shit,
And
you
well,
know?
no, because maybe it's not. Maybe I'm wrong in the fact of it's not a row of costumes. Maybe it's a pack, like a team pack. So if I
Oh,
want, say for example, they're like, okay, I don't know about the Verizon deal. I just keep using this as an example. But
sure.
say like that one's done, right, and they can release them now for whatever reason. So they're like, okay, we'll put it up for $10 because it's just recolors of all the costumes, whatever. and they put it as like similar to the heroic starter pack. If you buy like, yeah, maybe it can be on the store as its own little box sort of thing, right? Maybe it could be that. I mean, we know there's a potential patch next week, so it's definitely not out of the realms for them to re-add different things either. So
No,
like
true
menu.
enough.
But yeah, I think something like that, or the obsidian skins, or whatever, would be interesting. I don't think it'll be anything mental, but I think at most it'll probably be like a pack we can buy all the skins together.
Right. Okay. All right. I mean, both I think are pretty okay suggestions. I think yours. I do see yours happening more than mine does, just because it is seemingly something a little bit easier to implement. But I think both are within the realm of possibility, which is what I would expect both of them to be. Whether it's what you're saying or what I'm saying, both I could see happening. Even if one happens before the other, I think both ideas are kind of within. They're not so far out of the way that like, I'm reaching for the moon, for example, right? So, either or at this point, I think would be okay, I guess. When
Why
Andy
can't I
talked about
just
it,
have what? Oh.
sorry,
Why can't I
yeah,
just have my idea win? Why you gotta Why you gotta shove your idea, my idea, huh?
it's too early for this, man. You got to at least give it 20 minutes before you start this. 20 minutes, just 20 minutes, man. We're literally
Okay,
we're
that's
literally
all right.
almost
All right,
7 minutes
fine,
in.
fine,
Just 20 minutes, all right, and then
fine,
then you can have your
fine.
moments. All right.
I'll give
Um.
it. Okay.
Okay, 13 more minutes. So that was like one of the bigger news that came out of the dev stream. The other one, and this is probably more consequential for a lot of people, is that they're not actually moving the Red Room, even though Black Widow is delayed. I had memed this on Twitter saying, Crystal Dynamics, forced Marvel Studios to move, Black Widow because the Red Room Takeover wasn't ready. Obviously, pretty good meme, I would say so. But the truth is that even though Black Widow is moved, Crystal Dynamics are kind of still within that spring ballpark, right? Whether you're someone who thinks that it's coming in May or maybe a little earlier than May. I don't think anyone's thinking June at this point, because I think, everyone's thinking Tachyon in April, Red Room Takeover in May. So it does seem like wherever they have it pegged internally is where they're going to keep it. What do you think about that? Do you think they should tie it with Black Widow, or do you think, keeping it where they kept it originally is the right move, essentially?
I'm happy that they're getting their nuts and they're smacking them on the table, and they're going to be like, listen here, we don't need Marvel Studios to tell us what to do. If we want to release Red Room Takeover, we will. And I like that. You know what I mean? Like, and I appreciate that. MCU skins, animated nameplates, a cool little mini story with the
Yelena?
the that one,
Mm-hmm.
Belova and stuff. I think that sounds really cool. I don't know. I just think it's fine to leave it like that. Like Black Widow's had so many like tie-ins to like Fortnite, for example, the mobile games, and then
Mm-hmm.
got delayed, so it's like a year out, right? So what's stopping CD from releasing a homage to it that isn't a direct tie-in? Like they're not advertising it as the Black Widow tie-in. It's just
Mm-hmm.
something that's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge towards the film and making a connection that way.
I
And it's like a month and like a couple of months difference, right? And that's a much better than some of the mobile games having like a year's difference.
I mean,
So
you're definitely on point there with, like, obviously if you look at, I think Future Fight, or I don't think Strike Force has. I forget how Strike Force works, but I know Future Fight has the Black Widow costumes in there, I believe. Same thing with like Super War, for example. Like there are definitely Marvel games that have the costumes already, but I'm kind of wondering if obviously, those were originally tied with the original release date, many years ago at this point. Um, you know, I'm still wondering if maybe switching it out with like the cosmic cube so that maybe it could release alongside Black Widow is good for kind of the advertising bump. You know what I mean? Like there's obviously a little bit of, players are going to kind of see that and be like, "Oh, this has something to do with Black Widow. I just saw Black Widow." Like, you know what I mean? So I'm always so I'm wondering if maybe is it smart business to stay with that release date? Because the other side of it is that players aren't really going to handle another delay very well, So it's like, how do you judge those two forces? And obviously, Crystal is looking at it going, we have to stay true to our fans rather than, potential fans from the Marvel Studios movies. So to me, it's like, what's going to be better for the long run of the game, right? Is catering and sticking to a release date for your core fans the best move, or is trying to cater to new fans that come in off Black Widow the move? And I'm gonna be honest. I think what they're doing is good, but I also wonder if they're leaving money on the table as well. You know what I mean? Part of me is
Well,
wondering if they're leaving money on the table by not moving it, essentially.
well, here's the thing, because now we know officially, unless something mental happens, that it's out in
Oh,
July.
July.
Am I
Sorry.
right?
Yeah, I said June. It's July 9th. Yeah, sorry.
No, that wasn't even a correction. I didn't even notice you got it wrong. I
No,
was just
yeah,
like,
no, I
it is
got it
July,
wrong. Yeah,
right?
it's July. Yeah,
um,
it's like a few days before my birthday. Yeah.
so, oh well, so there we go. So everyone high rulers getting even older now. Well, so I think that it's probably actually for the best to leave it where it is, because if I'm looking forward to a film, so Black Widow's
Hmm.
been kind of teased on the tip of multiple consumers for a long time, right?
Right.
I used to be really excited for it, then I got a bit less excited for it because it was taking too long, and
Hmm.
like Black Widow's not my favorite like
Yeah.
hero, but I
Sure.
like the story and I really like the look of the film, so I'm still excited. And there's going to be some hardcore Natasha fans out there, and I think that if Avengers is introducing this to wet the whistle of people excited and also disappointed about the slight
Oh,
delay, it could be like, oh, sick! So I get to do something involving the movie in a way, like in a very small way, but still
that's
in a sort of
interesting.
sense. And then they'll play that like mental to get themselves appetized from what they could have had, and then the film's out, and then they're like, well, thanks, Marvel's Avengers, you helped me out, now I'm excited for the film again. And
That's
then
actually a
if
good way
that
to look at it.
if they see, and the thing is, if bigger names, as in the people in the suits, see it on social media, that a lot of people are kind of like, oh well, it's a shame that Black Widow's been delayed, but at least I have Red Room Takeover to wet my Black Widow whistle. That kind of sounds weird. um then that'll be good for business anyway, because people will be like, oh well, Avengers, okay, let's
Right.
let's have a look, right?
Yeah.
And and it could be in a way like something that even, I won't say Marvel Studios, but potentially like the bigger people that advertise it on Twitter that work for Marvel and stuff could be like, "Are you missing out on any Black Widow stuff, or do you want to like prepare for the film?" Marvel's Avengers have the Red Room Takeover event with Black
Mm.
Widow and a sister and stuff like that. You could jump on in. You could and some animated
Yeah.
nameplates. You got some MCU skins. It's good. I think if anything, this is probably the best way to make money.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think about it that way. Using this as a kind of a, the what's the word I'm looking for? The appetizer to the main course.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, instead of using this as dessert, you're using this as the appetizer. Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, like you totally could be right, and that's probably the way they looked at it too. Instead of like, instead of trying to be the direct kind of like in line with the movie releases, we're gonna be the appetizer. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because I think as long as there's the white suit from Black Widow, I think Black Widow fans are gonna be pretty happy. And I think people like it's gonna be one of those things where if they do MCU skins, but you don't have that white suit from the new movie, I think you've kind of missed out, right? Because I think that's gonna be a suit a lot of people are gonna want. So but also, how do you release that before the movie releases? Oh, interesting.
Well, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, you're
I
gonna say you
can't.
don't want
I
it.
can. No, I do actually want it. I
Oh,
love the
okay.
white skins. The white iconic recolor for Clint in his challenge card is one of my favorites.
Mm.
So I think that with this white skin, and obviously it takes effort. It's not like, and it's not as easy as I imagine some people think. But I don't think the White Widow movie skin will take a lot anyway. So I think that releasing it either Red
Mm.
Room Takeover or maybe even like making it a reward,
Oh,
an
interesting.
MCU skin reward. Like imagine that. Like imagine being able to earn an MCU skin, right?
Well,
And it doesn't.
sorry.
I
Go
think
on.
I think that would be really interesting, and I think that what you could do is obviously, because I know it says, oh, MCU skins are going to be in the game, but
Hmm.
it would be a bit ridiculous to release one every single week. Like they have to.
I thought I would imagine they come in a pack, like not necessarily a pack, as in like you pay one price and you get all those skins, like those 7 or 8 skins together, but enough like they come together. You know what I mean? They're all in the shop together, not spread out over the like a week. I imagine you
Oh,
have
I
like
don't know.
I thought I was thinking you have like phase 1, right? Like phase 1, that Thursday you reload on weekly reset and you have like 7 skins there of like MCU, and then like maybe like a month later it's phase 2, and then you have, a month after that phase 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like I never thought originally they would go like, here's like your Thor MCU skin this week, guys, and come back next week for your next one, Like I can't see them drip feeding it. I thought it would just be like there,
Well,
you know?
there was a sort of a thing that people were making note of, that a lot of people, well, some people that I've seen, assume that you might be able to earn MCU skins during the Red Room Takeover event, because.
Okay.
And while I'm here, I want to search this exactly, because I want to look for the exact wording. Otherwise, it's going to drive me crazy. There
Well,
it
yeah.
is. Actually,
Well,
I found it
okay.
straight away.
Perfect.
We'll be introducing the Red Room Takeover event this spring. Features rewards like animated nameplates, outfits inspired by the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and a deadly harm room hacked by Yelena Belova, and more secrets to the crypts. Now, obviously,
Mm,
people have seen featured rewards like animated nameplates, outfits inspired by the MCU, and thought that they would come together, but it's not like animated nameplates and outfits inspired by the MCU. So I would think that having them as a reward, leaving money off the table, but because a White Widow skin isn't exactly like so difficult to come by. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that they could have released ages ago, realistically, and
sure.
it not be an MCU tie-in, really, because it's just a recolor essentially. You know, um, that maybe it could just be a reward for the event, like you know how these community challenge are a thing. Well, instead of like having like a big, oh well, there we go. Maybe make it in a community challenge. MCU Widow skin for a community challenge. That'll get loads of people in.
Yeah, I mean that's true enough. Yeah, I mean people have asked me if I thought the MCU skins were going to be like free rewards, and like my first thought in my head has been no. Like I couldn't see like like I can see you doing something again, like Fat Thor, for example, or like Infinity War Thor, if those are some of the ones they're gonna pick, right? But I guess when you think about it, a Black Widow MCU skin is probably like a great reward, for this kind of like little event. So
Yeah.
I guess like I'll have to update my answer to be like maybe, like I said, if you're going into this thinking MCU reward skins, easy. I'm getting, Mark 80, what is it, like 85 Iron Man or whatever, like Infinity War Iron Man or Endgame Iron Man. Like, no, like you could get a
Yeah,
Black Widow
that's
skin. Yeah. That's probably fair.
you
That's
could.
probably
Yeah, yeah. Because I think, like, obviously there's so many suits in the MCU that, like, they're not drastically different to their comic counterparts or some of what they've inspired here. So like the original Mark 1, right, Iron Man suit,
mm,
realistically it just looks like a more battered version of the metal classic one we've already seen in the pre-order pack, right? So I mean, that's not much. That could be a reward, for example, if you wanted to do stuff like that. There's definitely an incentive there. Perhaps they could do like a little challenge for each hero.
mm.
Obviously Kate hasn't really come out yet, but obviously we've seen what Kate's costume is supposed to be like, but I'm assuming they wouldn't be allowed to do that, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, because
probably
it's
not
just like
until, yeah, they'll probably
probably
have to
not until
wait.
it's actually released. So
Yeah.
obviously, and same with Miss Marvel as well. So it'll
Yep.
probably just be with the other guys and Clint. But
Yeah.
obviously they could have a challenge for all of them, and it could be like one of their more basic MCU
Mm.
counterparts, and then save the ridiculously like cool ones like the Infinity War Iron Man for the shop, which I think would
Yeah,
be really cool.
yeah, it could be a good way to do it. Give everyone a little bit of a freebie, and give the people who are willing to pay kind of their own kind of skin to pay for. Yeah, I guess like you make both groups happy at that point, right? So I mean that's always a good thing. So yeah, I definitely could see that working, for example. So that was the other big thing. The third big thing that I just remembered was obviously Phil talking about patrol mode, and obviously kind of reaching into the community there with the Reddit post to kind of get ideas and inspiration for the patrol mode coming later this year. And Stardust, what do you think about the patrol mode? What do you think about Phil asking for the community to give ideas? Give me your thoughts on everything kind of surrounding the conversation and patrol mode over the last few days.
Well, I find it really interesting how excited Phil really seems to be about patrol mode. Like, I mean, obviously it's his baby, right? He's the Warzone director, and it's the biggest
Mm,
Warzone there's been, so it makes a lot of sense. But like, yeah, and in the dev string they name dropped Marvel Heroes, which is
yep.
something that a lot of people, like Marvel fans especially, were like, yes,
Right.
thank the Lord. And like Tony Bing, for example, really big Marvel Heroes, guy, obviously, was like,
Mm,
oh, what about Mondays having double XP and stuff like that? Making homage to those games and stuff. So already you can tell that there's a lot of players that may come back to the game, may even buy the game at that point for
yeah.
something like that, because it's like a nice little nostalgia trip.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I've got the Reddit post up right now actually, and there's a lot of suggestions here that I mean, some people are probably stepping over it a little bit. Some are kind of,
Of
like
course. Of course.
24 players in this wasteland thing. It's like, okay, have fun
Yeah.
with your optimization, mate. I don't know what you're running,
Yeah.
but
Good luck. Good luck to
like,
those PS4 players and those Xbox One players. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Like, and Phil's responded to someone like that, saying like it's four max.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
come on. And like, I made a point in a video that I made because someone mentioned how there could be like public events and stuff like that. Now
Mm-hmm.
that can be a thing because obviously apparently it's such a big open area that realistically I don't need three of me mates to join me every single place I go. The
Right.
idea can be like, right, you go left, I go up, right,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yep.
And then when there's a boss, just shout for one of us. We'll run to you or whatever.
Yep.
Um, now obviously that could work. That could work. We could all get something really cool for that. I think that the biggest challenge in this Wasteland Patrol is that it needs to feel lively, because I think the
Yes.
problem with the Wasteland, and I mean the clue's in the name, is
Yep.
that like it's a
It's
wasteland,
dead.
right? So
Yeah. It's dead
I
feeling. Yeah.
understand, like I understand that's the point, but you're not going to get people playing hours and hours and hours and hours of it if it's just like, yep, okay, more silence, more rocks to jump
Yeah.
over. Oh, a chest, great. Like, you can't literally make it like, because I know Phil said like we've been seeing what you've been doing and then leaving, not going to the vaults essentially, and we kind of wanted to base it off that, and that alone scared me because it's not a fun farm, it's just a easy
It's
means
an
to an
efficient
end
farm.
to get
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Um, and that's yeah, and that's sort of something that I was a little bit worried about. But with people saying like, for example, this one's gotten a lot of upvotes. I'm hoping to see a big open area where bosses can randomly spawn in different areas of the map. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of a given though, right? Like that seems like a
I would
really
say that's
weirdly missed opportunity.
I would say there's probably a few things that are guaranteed, right? So for me, it's random bosses spawning throughout the map. It's probably they also name drop Destiny, so like maybe small little quests of like kill this amount of enemies here and there that you have to go do. I'd say that's probably
Hmm.
guaranteed. Small little events, like this patrol group spawned in, go take them out and or whatever. Like that's probably guaranteed. I think what they're looking for is like out of the box ideas. Like you look at those three ideas, those are pretty standard patrol mode, right? So, say for example, you take Tony's idea where it's like double XP on Mondays, for example, right? The great way to tie that in is to tie that into post 50 progression, because the second part of that is that Midtown Mondays were a great way to kind of level up your character, reset them, and go for like the cosmic grind or whatever, right? Once you kind of hit max, there's nothing else to grind for, right? XP becomes meaningless. But you tie that into your post 50 progression, you tie that into a Paragon system, you tie that into kind of powering up your character still. Now that XP grind actually means something again, right? So would that XP grind mean something to like new players? Sure. But does that double XP actually mean something to endgame players? No. So you got to tie those two systems together. And without the Paragon system or without post level 50 progression in some sort of way, you look at double XP on Mondays, and it just falls flat, right? So you got to tie that's probably an out of box idea, right? That you got to start merging these ideas together to get something that isn't just like, I want enemies spawn here, I want chests here, I want bosses here. Like those are basic. You got to I guarantee Phil's looking for like the out of the box shit. You know what I mean? Like the shit that they haven't thought of yet. Like the shit that like you're
Well,
merging all these systems together because like the most obvious stuff, this has been done before. They're gonna rip off Destiny. They're gonna rip off Marvel Heroes. Like that's not a bad thing. It's just it is what it is, right? So like look for the crazy shit. And not so crazy that you're getting 24 people and you're melting PS4s, but crazy as in like you're taking this idea and you're sticking them together and they're having a baby, essentially, you know?
well, I mean, someone said here, the same guy actually that I was just reading off. For example, have the storm cover certain areas of the map, so you know the tachyon storm that happens, and have night and day rotations.
Yeah, but like what does that do? That doesn't like what's the gameplay factor of that?
No, but the thing is, even visually, I wouldn't be against night and day rotations in the slightest because I know this. I know, right? It's going to sound really weird, and I know that it's like, oh, we're in literal the end of the world, and you're patrolling and stuff like that. But there's something really relaxing about the idea of me just flying about as Iron Man. You know, looking for bosses to like farm and stuff in the night time. You know,
Yeah.
in this, and I don't, and I'm like, you've got to
I
think
don't
of it as like
disagree
a
with
more,
you.
yeah,
I know what you're
like,
saying, right? You're going for
yeah.
the ambiance of it all. Like you're going for the visual kind of like feeling of being there, like and kind of the feeling of your character in this wasteland, the day and the night cycle, how it makes you feel. Is that kind of where I'm like I did cut you off a little bit, but that's where you're going for, right? Like a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a more things that I'd want in there, but if you sort of don't make it, if you do the night and day cycles, if you have the storm cover certain areas, that makes it more dynamic and that makes it more feel more alive. Because I'm not expecting there to be fucking people walking about everywhere we go, right? And obviously,
No.
if you literally spam every single area with enemies, it's going to get to a point where that's all you're doing, right?
But
Where's the
isn't that the
exploration?
but isn't that like the exploration is gonna run out after like an hour, right? Because like you look at the yeah, it's gonna be the like the big one of the biggest areas in the game, but like it's not necessarily a Tomb Raider game where there's gonna be like all these like little secrets and places to go. It's just gonna be an area. So why not fill it with enemies? Give you stuff to farm. Like that's kind of the idea, no? Like I mean, maybe we're coming from this at two different angles. I'm not looking to go on like a Sunday stroll kind of thing. I'm looking to like farm gear, you know?
No, I mean, like so am I, but I'm just trying to think of a way that you can like do all of it. Do you know what I mean? Like in a place where you can literally spend as much time as you want in there doing quests, farming for gear, whatever. You know, I'm trying to think of just a way to visually make it so that it's not just dive in there. It's the same looking, obviously, and we know we're gonna have different areas, but I just mean like, you know, it'd be nice to go into a different place and the rotation, like, oh, it looks a bit, you know, it's nighttime, for example, or oh my god, like the storm's out or whatever. Maybe there's a gameplay element. There, maybe there's a gameplay element to that, right? Like maybe like, for example, the tachyon storm goes over. You got this tachyon event that happens. Enemies are coming out of these tachyon portals and shit, and you need to fight them off for a certain amount of time. So like maybe there's like a
Oh
block
yeah,
that
then
closes around you, right?
yeah, so you tie that into a gameplay event. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that sounds cool. Or like that, or say there's like an enemy patrolling and random tachyon storms can like duplicate the enemies or whatever. And if it duplicates the enemy, it duplicates the rewards kind of thing, right? Like, there's probably ways you can take the tachyon storm and use it in a gameplay way. I was just thinking like, oh, if the tachyon storm just comes and it looks and you look at it and you're like, oh, this is great. Hey, tachyon storm. Like to me, that just seems like a waste. But if you tie it into like more enemies, more rewards, more things to do. Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to disagree on that. I was just the way you originally worded it, I was like, oh, he just wants the visual stuff, you know. But when you kind of went in and explained it a
Well, I
little
mean,
bit,
I still want the visual stuff though. That's the thing. Like, even though, yeah, okay, like obviously, I want to be able to like go around and farm gear and stuff like that.
mm,
What I'm trying to say is that if the area's swarming with just mini little synth, you know, like the real basic grey synthoid bots,
sure,
because it's just to, you know, just for the sake of filling the map up because there's nothing else going on. There's no visuals. You know what I mean? So they try and distract you with constant enemies. It's gonna
right,
get to a point where it's a bit like fucking. I might as well just go do like something else. Like let me just like make this feel different to every other place that we go to. Right? It's supposed to be this massive wasteland, and I want to be into a point where I'm like, yeah, obviously, like there has to be enemies some places, right? Or else it'd be boring. Like, you know,
yeah,
I wanna fuck, but like I don't wanna. I want it to feel like I can be in there for a long time and it not get tiring. I feel like it's a place that they want you to be able to spend as much time in as possible. That's why they advertise it as the mission never ends, and it's been a patrol mode in general. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna fly as Iron Man in the nighttime and play ASMR and hope I go to sleep or something while I'm playing Marvel's Avengers. But I just, I like to think of it as, you can have a time of exploration, because that
Hmm.
is one thing that I think that like people wanted in patrol mode. As soon as patrol mode was announced and it was this big open space, people were like, oh my god, open world. It's obviously not,
Yeah,
but
of
like
course.
it gives people that chance to explore when before everywhere just seemed kind of meh, boring, dead.
Well,
Like, oh, the eastern seaboard, that looks fun, let me go and explore that. And it's like not big enough. There's no life going on really. It's just kind of a bunch of cars and trucks and buildings. And I think that this can satisfy those people as well as satisfy the people that know where to go to start farming. You know, and
well,
that's kind of my thought process on it.
Well, there's two different groups of people, and I'm not going to speak for everyone who played Marvel Heroes, but the whole point of Midtown Manhattan was it was hectic, it was grindy. There was lots of enemies, lots of spawns, lots of things going on, right? Like there was no kind of like crazy night cycle, day cycle. It was you're in there, you're going from top right, top left, all the way down. Like it was enemies after enemies after enemies after enemies after enemies, right? It was how many enemies can you farm the fastest? It was the Sinister Six here. It was the X-Men villains here. Like the whole point of Midtown was not to go around and explore. It was to farm as fast and efficiently as possible for that XP on Mondays, right?
But
Versus like,
sorry,
oh
mate,
well,
sorry, I
yeah,
cut you off.
no, you're good. Versus like a Destiny Patrol mode where it is a little more expansive. It is a little more open where there's quests. There's a small little quests around. It's more open. There's more things. There was more breathing room in there, right? So the problem is that they're by name dropping those two games, you're almost name dropping two complete differences in patrol modes, almost, right? They share similarities, but the way they go to the end point is very different. And how they're going to merge those two worlds together is going to be the most interesting thing about patrol mode, because one group is going to want the crazy farmable bosses, farmable events, and then there's the other group who wants a little more breathing room on how they go about their kind of farming. And I'm not going to say one group is going to be happy and one group is not going to be happy. I'm going to say both groups are going to be a little unhappy, actually, which is the way I see it going, you know?
I mean, look, out of the two of them, I would rather have the Marvel Heroes style where, like, oh, you've got Abomination rules this part, right? Because remember, they're meant to be cut off into sections, as far as like I remember seeing on an article somewhere. That isn't. I've not heard that from the devs themselves, but I remember seeing on an article, and it might have been one of the things that those breakdowns of what the
I've read
people were
enough
seeing at
articles
the
lately that it's
presentation.
like I've read enough articles lately that I'm just going to disregard a lot of them at this point. So, sure. I
Okay,
mean,
well, all
but
right.
we know
Say,
we know
say
they're broken off. We know they're broken off into three distinct areas with like a conjoined area that merges them all together, right? So we know there's the
yeah.
graveyard, the shield, and the city, right? So
Okay, so we'll
yeah,
say that, right. So say for example in the shield bit, we got Taskmaster, we got we got those guys there, and we've got like Abomination and stuff like that going on over here. So for example, Abomination will drop specific gear in the patrol mode. So all right, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna beat the shit out of him multiple times. Or
sure.
Taskmaster, I'm gonna go. So and same with another place could be super adaptoid. You can mix it round, more villains
Yeah,
that come in,
yeah, of
and
course.
obviously, but then in the main bit, obviously it's literally like depending how big that is, obviously it's like a free for all then, right? There's like people, you're fighting relatively quite often and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, but if you go into these specific places you have a choice then, you know what I mean? And obviously, I mean, of course I'd like it the way you said it, like you got the X-Men villains here, Sinister Six, but there's not that many villains yet, so you have to kind of dedicate these specific areas, I think, to the bosses that we do have, thinking about it if it come out like tomorrow, right?
Sure.
um, so I think that I do think they want to do this merging the two. And what I was going to interrupt you for when you were talking about Marvel Heroes and it's not really exploration, they're two visually different games.
Oh
They're
yeah, of
two
course. Don't
that
get me wrong.
like like this is a AAA game that a lot of people were begging for it to be
But when you name drop,
more exploring and
but when you name drop
sorry.
that game specifically, no one's thinking about the visual aspects of it. They're thinking about the gameplay elements, right? And the gameplay elements where it was quick farms. It was quick farms, hectic, busy. And like, don't get me wrong, like. I know people shouldn't go in and expect Marvel Heroes 2.0. Like they shouldn't realistically go in and expect like Midtown in patrol mode. But there's going to be people who look at the elements of Midtown and they say like, I just want that, like, just transplant it. You know what I mean? And to some
Mm,
extent, by name dropping Marvel Heroes, they've set that expectation, right? They really have, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who still love that game, myself included. But there's a lot of people who still marry those two games together, those two being Avengers and Marvel Heroes, thinking Avengers should be just a Marvel Heroes made in AAA standards at this point.
well,
It's very dangerous to name drop that game. It really is, because of the expectations that come
yeah.
with it.
Well, I'll be honest. Like when I'm speaking about patrol mode and stuff like that, I come off a complete patrol mode virgin because
Okay.
I didn't get to play Marvel Heroes. I don't really play Destiny, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming as someone who like has seen what people have said, have never gone through a patrol mode in my life, and I'm just sort of thinking to myself, like, if a complete newbie was to
Mm-hmm.
go into this, what do I expect? And
Sure.
and as I've mentioned, it's like I would expect there to be specific areas that are ruled by certain villains on certain days, because I'm assuming it'll refresh. I'd like to imagine there's a rotation sort of system. Um, and obviously we know there's quests. I'd assume it's in that little resistance bunker little place, ideally. We and stuff like that, and obviously, I'd like to go around, collect specific loot from there. There's probably different things I'll be able to farm while I'm in there. There'll probably be challenges and stuff like that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to advertise something as the biggest war zone you've done, then I do believe you're wanting to satisfy as many people as possible in that, because obviously at the moment they're trying to get as many people through the door. I'd like to imagine that they're gonna try and mix the two, as like if you want to go endless balls to the wall farming non-stop, like enemies are coming at you from every single angle, then well, guess what, this week it's so similar to the Division 2, right? So there's invaded missions or invaded strongholds where like they glow up red. So Black Tusk will go and invade like the
Oh, I know how
the
to do this. I know how to do this. This is
okay,
so
okay.
easy. This is so easy. We're overthinking this. Enemies spawn more frequently as you go higher up in the challenge level. Done. There it is. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to play
Yeah.
super hard enemies and they spawn super frequently, just go challenge 4 and it's done. Like, we're thinking way too hard into this. I think it's like, if you want like a very kind of like not an easy experience but a more casual experience where you're kind of like able to fly around, look around, kind of just play challenge 2. You want balls to the wall, intense
Yeah.
action. You want like enemies spawning. You want to go in there and you want to farm and you have a challenge doing it. Just go play challenge 4. Like, I think we're thinking way too hard about this.
I think they are, yeah, because
Yeah.
they said it is a mission. Do you know? Like you have to load into it and everything. You don't just fucking fly over there from the. You know what I mean? Like there is like it has to boot up and start from what we've heard, similar to any other war zone. So like, yeah, you can just challenge 1 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it because like we're coming up with all these complex like solutions and we're thinking like we're going like 3 + 3 = like 81 and we're dividing that in half, square rooting it. Like the simple answer is like the frequency and the difficulty goes up in challenge level and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we solved it.
So if they mix in the visuals for the people that want to play the casual stuff with challenge 1, challenge 2, and they implement the really cool like non-stop Marvel Heroes like thing that you mentioned that I like the sound of as well, then
Yeah.
challenge 3, challenge 4 sort of thing, as long as they advertise it as such, so then everyone can read that and be happy. I
Mm.
think I think yeah, I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I don't disagree with the visual stuff, but I think the visual stuff you can tie it into gameplay events within the patrol mode is just better than like the Tachyon Storm, and you're just like wave into it like, hey, Tachyon Storm. Like, but if it does something, if it interacts with the enemies, interacts with the world a little bit, I think you're better off kind of doing something like that. But maybe that's something that once again, it's like the Tachyon Storm is a little more visual, and then you guys, you go up in challenge level, it becomes a little more integral. It becomes a little more like integral to the actual gameplay of what's happening. You know?
Well, like for example, I
Mm.
think this person here who's done. So obviously, we saw a little bit of like a Marvel Heroes, like look into it. Someone said for Destiny's Patrol mode, so they're comparing that.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny's Patrol mode should be a huge inspiration/influence. Interesting map layout with multiple points of interest. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, of
okay.
course. Yeah.
Secret areas and Easter eggs hidden around the map to make it more than just a grinding area. See what I mean? Like people don't just want to jump in, fight, and that's it. They want to,
Well, yeah.
Easter eggs, exploration,
And
stuff
I
like that.
don't disagree. I don't disagree, but I think when you name drop two different games that like I said, go at it two different ways, it's not necessarily one's going to be disappointed and one's not. It's going to be, there's a little bit of disappointment on both ends. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
disagree that people want the Easter eggs, the exploration and stuff, but it's really hard to balance that with people who want balls to the wall action. So on Monday, they go in there and beat up a bunch of enemies and they level up 40 times. You know what I mean? Like, that was literally
Yeah.
what Midtown was. Like, Midtown was, you go in on Mondays, you level up 40 times, you reset your character, and you go again. You know? Like, so it's definitely one of those things where there's a little bit of conflicting views on what they're looking for, but I think at the end of the day, everyone wants something that can go spend most of their day in there, you know, however that takes shape, you know.
Well, there's so I'll carry on reading it just through because a lot of these seem more like aesthetics, which is a
Sure.
bit and some are gameplay stuff as well. So a map to navigate to different POIs and highlight nearby public events. So I mean public events in this case must literally be like what we mentioned, how there's going to be like 4 players, but there's like an area where like then you need everyone there to start it, for example.
Yeah, probably.
Um Map needs to be big enough to make it feel like a massive open area.
Mm-hmm.
Friendly NPCs and hideouts with NPCs giving patrol exclusive assignment. Well, we
Sure.
kind of
Yeah.
know that's a thing anyway, but obviously hideouts would be pretty fun, like little
Mm-hmm.
safe points and stuff. You know, like maybe like there's a stash if you've run in too much on a gear, or you want to swap out a gear that might be in your locker or something. You know.
Yep. Yep.
Traversal should be tweaked/made faster to make exploring the patrol regions fun.
Ooh, I was waiting for that one.
Yeah, I totally like that's yeah. Like imagine jumping in as Cap right now. You nah.
Well,
Just
here's the thing, man. Like, if traversal is ever going to be tweaked, this would be the time to do it, right? The problem is like if you tweak traversal for patrol mode and this open map, what are you left with regular war zones? You know, like it's totally tough, man. Like like I said, and I don't want to derail you too much. We could talk about traversal after. I understand where people are coming from when it comes to traversal stuff. It's just like the balancing that goes into traversal is a little more intricate than like make someone run faster or make someone jump higher. You know, like there's a little bit more that goes into it. It's not simply, you know, tweak a few numbers and move on with your life, right? But sorry, yeah, continue.
well,
Sorry.
I think the thing is with traversal and stuff like that is like for me, for example, the flying characters and like so Thor and Iron Man, like they're fine. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like it's flying. It's not. It doesn't feel boring when I get to fly or
Sure.
whatever. I think that my only issue is like tapping that X button all the time
Well,
to get from. So say literally there's like okay, so I'm in one corner of the Wasteland Patrol mode, so I'm in this POI, but there's a public event across, and for some they don't have like fast travel or whatever. So I'm like okay, so and say
you
I'm
gotta do you gotta do the bunny hop. You gotta bunny hop across.
say I'm Widow.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like.
Well, and that's what I said that 2 weeks ago. I said if you're gonna change traversal, you got to take out bunny hop at that point because bunny hop is the quickest way. So if you take out bunny hopping and you increase the running speed of these characters, that's fine. That works actually. If for Cap and Widow, and I would even say Hawkeye, Kate, that's fine because like bunny hopping is the most efficient way to get around. So if you're gonna make that change, that's cool. But you can't. I don't think you can like totally up these characters' speed and keep bunny hopping in, because then you're just gonna be bunny hopping across the map before you know it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, because we're so sort of wired, especially in this game, to be bunny hopping everywhere. I think even if you make the speed faster, people are still going to be bunny hopping because that's probably going to be faster no matter what. But I
Right.
think that characters such as like Kate and Clint, where like they are, you know, and Widow as well. Widow, to be fair, like they're not characters that we've seen be able to sprint faster than cars or anything like that. They're
Sure.
characters that like, obviously don't give them a motorbike or anything like that. But like we need, there needs to be something there to be able to make Traversal just a little bit different in the wastelands. And you'd imagine that they know this. Do you know what I mean? They're not like,
What
but
it comes back to the point where you're talking like it's the same thing where we talked about Hulk, right? Where it's like the fantasy versus the gameplay, right? Like where do you blend those two together, right? Like do you make Widow super fast even though she's not that fast in for the sake of gameplay? You know, do you sacrifice a little bit of that, you know, element of the fantasy from the comics and the movies and everything like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like I let's say, I don't mean to cut you off. It's just like these conversations are so hard to have because like you're trying to balance two different, it's once again like two different ideas or two different elements of the fantasy, right? It's the gameplay versus the the canon or the history, and it's like how do you balance that to make it fair? You know what I mean?
I think that like, okay, so say for example we know Cap's fast, right? We
Sure.
we,
Yep.
we from what we've seen. So
Yep.
if you so say for example I decided I'm gonna make all my characters race and I got three of my other friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was me, Widow, Clint and Kate. But
Yep.
it not realistically Cap would win that race, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
obviously in this scenario, it would be like, would they all run at the same speed for the sake
Sure.
of gameplay's sake? And I understand that that may annoy people, but would people even notice if they're not running together? If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like if you're
True.
if you're just if you're just focused on getting to point A to B, are you really going to complain that they're all the same speed? Like, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like,
true.
so obviously, I understand that crystal dynamics sort of, I'd imagine that the idea was make it all realistic, but like Widow can leap, like she can bunny hop really far, like
I
to a
no.
point where, so obviously if you want to, I mean, it wouldn't be the biggest killer for me if Traversal wasn't sweet. I just think that there'd be some characters that people like Cap would be a bit sort of would try and avoid because he's not
Mm,
fast on his feet. His bunny hop isn't a bunny hop. It's more up than it is forward.
sure.
So obviously, and you have the shield intrinsic, but some people rely on that for some of their builds. For example, there might be like shield blocking builds or whatever that people just
Right.
so they're not going to touch Cap. And you need to, obviously, and we know that traversal changes are coming, so I think it's not fair to really for us to be like, oh, it's going to be shit until that
Right.
comes out. um
Like I said, if they're gonna make changes to traversal, they got to start with the bunny hop. Like the bunny hop has to go, and then if you take out the bunny hop, which I don't even know if the bunny hop's intentional. I can't see them going, yeah, let's get them the bunny hop. I can't think that's intentional. Like I really can't. So I imagine the bunny hop is the days are numbered for it. And if the days are numbered for it, then I would say open traversal up and figure out the best ways to do it. But if you're just going to start speeding up all these characters and then you still have the bunny hop in game, yeah, you're going to see Widow kind of like, have the speed force behind her when she moves or something. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have Quicksilver out there instead. Like there's got to be like ways to kind of like navigate traversal issues. And I get it. Like everyone looks at traversal a little bit differently. But to me, it starts and ends with bunny hopping, and then everything else opens up after that.
yeah, I don't know. I think that like because the thing is, obviously bunny hopping, it might not have been intentional to be used for like traversal, but obviously the reason is because jump to an enemy or something like that, that are flying
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, if
Yep.
you don't want to use the intrinsics or whatever to get up there. But I think that people, it is a difficult conversation because when you think of how do you make Cap faster, Well, how do you make Widow, Clint, and Kate faster? You think, oh, just give them a vehicle, right? But
Right.
it's a very repeated thing that we've heard
But
for Cap, for example.
but the
Like,
vehicle trivializes a lot of the level design at that point. You know what I mean? Like it's like
exactly, yeah.
yeah. And like yeah, and that's the thing too is like it's almost in the same vein of the conversation you have with Hulk, for example. Like you make Hulk, and I've heard some actually good ideas where it's like different button presses. You hold down a button, and then that does it, and that actually didn't sound too bad because the problem is like you trivialize the level design by making Hulk just automatically jump farther and faster because then you put him indoors, and you're like having Hulk slam against the ceiling, for example, right? But I've heard like if you just give him like a hold button, like maybe you hold a rage and then jump, for example, or something like that, right? And like that could be a way to do it. There are different ideas out
Mm.
there. There are good ideas out there. It's just like to me, it's once again, get rid of the bunny hop, and then I'm open to anything. To me, it's just like get fucking rid of it. That's just personally speaking. But
Oh, you don't like the bunny hop, do you?
I just think it's
Jeez.
so dumb. Like I think it's like I use it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm gonna use every gameplay advantage I got, but I just look at it. I'm like, this is fucking stupid to look at. Like, yeah, like let
Imagine,
me.
imagine like someone's in one of these buildings and they're looking out, and the fucking Avengers are like, whoop.
Yeah, like let me just do the jump, and then especially when you look at like the way Hawkeye does it, where he like dangles his legs in the air, then he comes down, and it's just like it looks so terrible. Just get rid of it. Like,
Hawkeye has no graceful traversal. The only well, besides his grapple on the poles and stuff like that,
yeah,
which I think besides Kamala is probably the best like
I
swinging traversal we've seen.
yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say they've tweaked Widow's a little bit, but I think Hawkeye's is still better than Widow's.
Because he pushes himself off. It reminds me of a very Spider-Man-esque swing, where it's like he literally kicks
Mm.
himself off. That was a point actually. Sorry, this is completely like we're going off topic. But this is a
Oh
different
yeah,
kind of
of
episode,
course.
so not much news. So there was a takedown that was in taking aim for Clint as an AI, and he
Yes.
essentially does like these two kicks to the face, jumps up and
Mm-hmm.
throws someone down, and when he lands, people will say, and I hope if you can get some sort of video of this because
I
otherwise
will.
people will think I'm talking nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
The landing was very graceful, very Spider-Man esque, like
Yep.
hand down, arm up, knees together to the chest sort of thing. And obviously we haven't seen it yet for
It's not in
Clint,
the
so
game. Yep.
people were thinking, or obviously it could be Panther as well, and people were thinking to themselves like, and I saw Bob Duck and Weave say this that it was like, Panther, Spider-Man, did they just want to test out that takedown, or they wanted to give Clint something else because maybe they didn't have all the takedowns completely finished by then?
Yep.
What are we looking for here? And it was really interesting. And looking at it now, every time I see Clint do that final little landing, I can't stop and I just see Spider-Man.
Yep.
And and it really is a Spider-Man style takedown. So obviously, it's just something I noted, and I thought like that's really interesting. Is there more things like that maybe we've not seen in other trailers? Like, for example, I know in Kate's deep dive when
Mm-hmm.
she jumped, it was Clint's how he
Yep.
jumps at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, in the official release of Kate, she jumps like Black Widow. Now,
Right.
was that a change to be like, oh shit, even their jumps the same? People are going to really hound us for that. So let's make it like Widows to negate that. Oh, it's the same. Do you know what I mean? Or is
Mm.
it because they were like, oh, it probably suits Clint better anyway? Or because Kate has a lot of traversal options, so giving her a shorter bunny hop isn't, it wouldn't have killed the momentum or anything because she just teleports and zips away anyway. Whereas
Sure.
like, because when Clint was announced, I thought he was going to get the cap double jump
Right.
and stuff like that. But obviously, he does the little like undramatic dangly of the legs kind of jump. And
Right.
I'd
Right.
I'd like to see if like there's any trailers and stuff that maybe people have noticed where like it's not in the game, but the thing that they have has been put to maybe another person, or is it something that like, so say Kate's trailer, for example, is there anything in there that Kate didn't end up getting that may have gone to Clint, like the jump, or
Mm.
like Clint's takedown? Are we going to see that for Spider-Man or Panther? It's really interesting to look through, and it's nothing, and it's no disrespect to like the devs or anything. It's just like, oh, they've seen that it might not have worked after the fact of releasing the trailer. It's like no one's going to give a shit that Kate's jump is different than
Yeah.
it was in the trailer. Like it's not false advertising or
Oh
anything,
yeah.
So
I mean,
like,
I think it just goes to show that like even when we think these characters are done, they're not done. You know what I mean? They're done to the point of like being in a trailer or part of the game, but they're not done to the point of like us playing them. You know, and I think that's what that speaks to more than anything.
but this is kind of goes back to the conversation we had last week because I saw that people were quite upset that I said that Panther shouldn't come out a month before the Wakanda expansion.
Yeah, people are
But
pissed at you, man.
I were, man. I was reading the comments. I was like,
They they
"Jeez!"
they they
like,
were going for you, man. They were gunning for you.
no. So, but that's my point, though, is that like, why not have that extra month and have it all come as a package so that we can make sure that this Panther is the absolute finalized version they want to go for? This is the one they're putting shining with the rest of the meal, rather than it being like, oh, he's out, but it's too late. It's nothing we can add now. Like they come up with a really good idea a month before for the jumping, for example, like shit, could have
Yeah.
added that. Or, and it's like, why not give them that extra time so you can play it all together, then have a Panther that maybe could have been changed just a little bit, just a little bit to make it
Right.
more well-rounded, And I know that we had this conversation last week. You're like, there's not a lot they can change in that time, but there's little things, little dinky
Yeah, of
things that they
course.
can
I mean,
change in that
like the
time,
meat and the meat and potatoes of the characters are going to be done. It's always like the second and third kind of things that they can change. You know, the little things like you said, but the meat and the bones of like they're not going to change like a heroic like 2 months out. You know, like those are that's well done. You know, but maybe like a jump and stuff like that is stuff they can change. Sure, yeah, I don't disagree.
And obviously, there's a lot of physics that go involved. So, like for
Mm-hmm.
example, like even the pole swinging, like if they get to say a month away and they think, oh, that pole swing is still a bit awkward for him, his claws are getting stuck in the pole. It's just like it looks weird.
Yep.
Like we'll let's we've got a month, we can fix that. And it's like, and I understand that like people get really excited for these characters. Trust me. I want Black Panther now if I could, but I'm also not oblivious to the fact that if he come out now, he would not be, just wouldn't be ready.
Yeah, he
You know
wouldn't
what
be
I
the
mean?
Black Panther you would expect him to be. Sure.
He wouldn't be the Black Panther that I would actually want now, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like I am on your side, people. I'm trying to give you the best. And I think that it's better to have it stacked with everything else when it's all ready to go, so you can try it all as one big roast dinner.
Yeah, sounds good. I think with that being said, man, I think we've kind of hit all the major talking points from this week. Is there anything that we missed?
No, you know what? I don't think so. I think
Okay.
the
Yes.
only thing is that
Yes.
I've been looking for a new game to play,
Okay.
and I
Anyways,
can't think.
moving on. Moving on.
No, please. I want.
Moving on.
Okay.
Moving on. Well, this is an Avengers podcast. This isn't a general gaming podcast. We don't necessarily care about the other games that you're playing. But speaking of other games, while Stardust has a mental breakdown over my rejecting of his feelings, one of the questions I had two questions here from Ethan and Cage in the Discord server, the assembled Discord server, and these two games or two questions tie into the future of the Square Enix Marvel deal. So I'm gonna read Ethan's question. Sorry, and Square Enix, whatever. Who cares? And
Enix, man.
the first one is for future Marvel SE games. Do you think they should go back to the drawing board and try to make something completely different, or should they rather try to build on top of the foundation laid by Avengers? Now I'm going to pair this with Cage's question, which is if Guardians is still happening, do you think it'll be connected to this game or completely separate? Now the reason I'm going to pair these two kind of questions together is because I think if you're going to lay a foundation for like if you're going to take the foundation laid by Avengers, I would hope they're completely together. I would hope they're not separate entities. I would hope that if you look at these two games, Guardians, which is still rumored to be in development, that they are connected somehow, some way, So for me, I'm gonna answer this and start as you can answer after. When I look at the foundation laid by Avengers, the foundation is fine. Like I look at the foundation is fine. Obviously some tweaks to items and stuff like that. We can talk about that too in a little bit. But when I look at, missions, gear, reward, stuff like that. There is a winning formula here, and this is why you see these games kind of go after this formula. It's just the execution of this formula sometimes leaves a little to be desired, or leaves a lot to be desired. But I think one of the things that you always learn more from your, well, I was gonna say you learn more from your failures than your wins. I actually think that's true. So for me, when I look at some of the failures
So
that
deep.
Avengers, sorry.
I said so deep.
I know, right? I'm like a Hallmark card. So when you look at the failures by Avengers, I think there's a lot to be learned there. So I would hope that Guardians kind of takes what they've learned and maybe reinvent the wheel a little bit. And I would hope that it actually is connected. I would hope they're connected so you can see little crossovers and tie-ins and stuff like that, because that'd actually be a lot of fun. That's actually a good little marketing tactic by Square if they did that. It's like, oh, like this part of the story starts here, then goes over to Guardians, so pick up Guardians, or this story goes here, then goes to Avengers, right? It's almost like a crossover comic book, right? Like, so if they're gonna do, one of the things they always say is that their operations are little comic books and they all tie together. What if Guardians is another little comic book that ties together? So for me, I rather see them tie in together. I'd rather see them, obviously build out the foundation laid by Avengers, because what's the point if it's not? That's my
Well,
opinion.
people sort of, I actually totally agree with you. And it's similar to like the way the Netflix shows are in a way. Like, for example,
Mm,
after season 2, go and watch this, and then go and watch this, and then this season, and then all right, go
yep.
back to that show that you were watching, and it all makes sense. And
Right.
it's like, and obviously they could do that. But I think the only way that's going to work, and the only way you can really do that to like the best, get the most money out of it, is if
Right.
Avengers is totally resurrected and saved. Because if
Oh,
you're using
agreed.
Guardians as a next post to Avengers, people are going to be like, really, that shit's connected.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like, I'm thinking in the most negative way here, but like, so
But
so
that's the
for
way people are
example,
gonna think,
it's
though.
an easy
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's an easy pickup for me, but for people that see it, people that from the outside, are going to think that that's connected. I ain't
Yep.
having that. Like, and so this is why it's so important for the sake of the Square Enix Marvel franchise, whatever thing, to make sure that this game sells the amount that they want it to
Mm-hmm.
sell and gets as much money as possible. Because if you obviously get to a point where Avengers, you've got like Guardians out, you've got, and you're planning for the next one, and you think, right, let's shift, as much as we can to Guardians in regards to, advertising and all that. You've got to make sure that Avengers is now, got a full belly at that point. So then people can be like, okay, Avengers, rough start, but it's very good now. I trust
Yep.
Guardians. It won't have that same mistake. And even if it does turn out to basically be the same game, but more like, planet hopping and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, with obviously different mechanics, then yeah, I think people will be absolutely fine with that. Do I think that they'll be similar? I don't know if the reaction to how potentially difficult these games have been will put them off doing this again for Guardians.
I don't know if it would be a live service game, but I could see something like an Outriders, for example, like a very contained story that maybe starts with maybe like a loosely tie-in with Avengers. You know what I mean? Like, I like, I'm gonna fuck. I should probably ask Miller this before, but fuck it. We do it live here on Assemble. Miller has talked about in his stream how obviously the game goes to the cosmic route and everything like that, right? So like I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility with speculation that there may be, as the game goes more cosmic, there is potential there for a tie-in. You know what I mean? Now, if Avengers was always going to be Earthbound, I would say that's probably not in the cards. But once you start going out into space, I think everything's opened up, right? Like all cards are laid out on the table at that point. But I think it just depends on the execution of it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where, say for example, a little bit of a tie-in here, and then you take in, you go to, and it kind of ties into Guardians, and Guardians is a contained game, right? Not a live service, but it's contained start to finish, and maybe like one or two DLCs. I think people would be okay with that, because it's like you get your live service with Avengers, and you get your contained story, your contained game within Guardians. I think people would be more okay with that than anything else, right? Because it's like,
I agree. Would
yeah,
you still have loot in Guardians then?
oh
And
yeah,
stuff like that.
100%. Oh yeah.
Would you have it like, okay, so would you have it like Avengers, obviously with better loot and stuff, but like Guardians, paint, and not a live service?
No, so what I would do honestly is I would do if I'm doing Guardians as a contained game, not live service, I would still have loot, but I would go with, and people might get mad at me at this actually, but I would actually go the route that loot changes your appearance in Guardians. Yeah, 100%. Like, because you're not a live service, so you don't necessarily need, obviously if you want to go greedy, you can still have the marketplace. But I mean, in that kind of game, I would just go, you pick up, Star Lord's, guns, and maybe they change. Maybe they change depending on which ones you pick up. Gamora's sword, for example, changes depending on which one you pick up. Like, I think you go a little more into the looter kind of appeal because you're not necessarily having the same monetization system built into your game at that point. So, that's how I would do it, anyways. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and there's a good chance as well that Marvel may be a bit less restricting with the whole like loot changes appearance sort of thing, because obviously Guardians isn't as much of their baby as the Avengers are,
I think
So they
yeah.
may
Well, to your point, yeah, definitely. I think obviously not being their baby, but I also just kind of like the gameplay, like the monetization system would be just a little bit different. So you can get away with some of those things because you're not having to sell this Iron Man skin or that Thor skin or whatever, right? Like you basically are just there to kind of sell like your DLC packs, your expansion packs, for example. So it's a totally different system in place, which allows you to kind of take some of that criticism from Avengers and work it into Guardians. You know what I mean?
I think what would be quite interesting and almost funny in a way is if like Avengers is getting to the end of its lifeline, right? And we're about to go into the Guardians sort of stage. And then tie in to sort of advertise it with Avengers, and Guardians are actually really shit and annoying. So like they basically cuss themselves by putting them like in a little appearance or Avengers and
Oh
stuff.
god.
Can you imagine? Could you imagine they're like, okay, let's we need let's do a little advertisement. Let's get Guardians like a cameo, or maybe they can work with the Avengers, but we don't play as the Guardians because obviously that's what the game's for.
Right.
So but they're all really fucking annoying and completely like shit.
Oh
So
god,
everyone's like, I
man.
don't want to fucking touch that game with those bastards.
People
Like,
people would be upset, man. I'd probably be upset a little bit because the Guardians are such a fun out there team. Even if you take away, the MCU stuff, the Guardians are still kind of an out there team. So like, if it turned out, excuse me, that they bombed the characterizations of the Guardians, I would be upset. I'd be pretty upset, to be honest with you. Like that'd be kind of brutal. Like
I
there's a certain amount of like, obviously like Star Lord's got to be a little bit. I won't say like a douchebag, but he's got to be a little arrogant. Like Mora's got to be a badass. Like Drax, they've kind of taken him from like being this badass dude to like a little bit of comic relief, and then like Rocket, kind of like the tech in your face, and then Groot's just kind of Groot, right? Like if you're going with that MCU kind of tie-in, that's whatever. But um, it totally depends. If they make it so it's like they're very unlikable characters, I'll be very upset, to be honest.
Well, I mean, obviously we know that like they're not, from what we've seen so far, because again these are going to be made by two different developing teams, right?
Yeah, it's the rumor is it's Eidos in Montreal, the team that helped Crystal with Avengers. Yeah.
How much did they help? Did they help with story and stuff like that? Do
I
we
don't
know?
think so. I think story was all Crystal and Nyx's. I think I don't remember to the degree, or if it was ever reported to the degree that Eidos was in like stages of helping. As far as I know, Eidos actually has like 4 games in pre-production or in some stage of production. So actually, I don't know to the degree that they would be able to help Crystal. I just know they did help Crystal.
It's interesting because I'd like to know that if the meetings are going to be the same or anything like that. Like, because obviously I would say the Avengers characters are quite close to how they are normally anyway. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like,
Yep.
so
Yep.
I obviously in appearance they're different, but I think that in heart they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Minus like maybe like I don't know a
A
few
few things
changes,
here and
but
there. Yeah.
So I would assume they would want to keep the Guardians like that anyway,
Mm.
because the thing is they didn't think that the Guardians had this fan base, this colossal fan base, won't make a game of it.
Oh, of
So
course,
they know,
yeah.
that if those Guardians aren't like how the Guardians of the Galaxy are, people are going to get pissed at that. So I think that
Hmm.
my like thing about that won't come true. So anyone who's like, "Shut up, Stardust, you're jinxing it," don't worry.
Thankfully, thankfully. Um, okay, so I got a big question here from Get Swifty in the Discord. Are you ready for this one? It's a big one.
Oh God.
Okay. He says, "How would you feel about not costume cosmetic changes from gear, but just the weapon? For example, certain exotic bows for Hawkeye have unique looks that appear in game. That way, we could also get variation of Cap's shield to go with your costume of choice. And to go a bit further with this concept with a bit of a rework for Widow, how about the equipped range gear affect her actually equipped gun instead of having her have three variations? So, she'd always have her dual pistols in her loadout as secondary sidearms, but if you equipped a legendary sniper rifle to replace your rare SMG, then that gear change has a big impact to her gameplay because now her primary is replaced. So you're not just getting different stats and perks when you switch, you're also determining in a very tactile way how Widow fights. And we could tie this one in actually with another question from Stephen Butler here. No, not Stephen Butler, sorry, Loser Scott. Uh, it sounds weird calling someone a loser, but that is his name in the Discord, guys. I promise. So his question is: we tie these two together. What, in your opinion, is the most fulfilling and least fulfilling part about the gear system we have now? When it comes to Gear 2.0, what gear changes would you like to see? And this can include where gear drops, type of gear, etc. So I'm gonna marry those two questions together, and I'm gonna let you get first crack at it.
Oh, thank God, because I have something in my throat. I had to do it.
Yeah,
So
please.
okay, so here's the thing, right? Not thinking of development as a pure fan. Love
Yes.
it. Love the idea
Mm-hmm.
because I just like it's more, right? The thing is, the only thing that I would say I disagree with is the Widow side of things. Now, I would
Okay.
like to see three choices look different.
Mm-hmm.
If having them do different guns and then having Widow play differently seems really unfair to the other heroes that
Mm.
aren't necessarily based on any sort of gun. So, like Cap Shield, for example, looks different. Physics will be different because there's some are different shapes, but it's not going to literally be different. Do you know what I mean? It's
It
like there's
still
not going to
plays the same way
really change.
essentially.
It's going to play the same way, yeah. So,
Yes.
like so obviously, Thor could have Stormbreaker, but realistically, I'm not going to can't see much change in that either. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to drastically change how Thor plays unless they completely change the combat for one piece of gear. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think I can't see that. And I think that with Widow, it's the same thing. Like, oh, I've got a sniper on this exotic. That means that they're going to have to change the game literally everything about the gameplay in that moment for one piece of gear.
Mm.
It's like, look, as a total fan, without thinking of those boring little details and the details that I'm sure the devs hate as well, because obviously if they could do these things, I'm sure they'd snap it into existence, but it's not the world we live in
Right.
yet. But like, I think that realistically, it seems sort of, I think that gameplay difference, no visual difference one day to the weapons or gear, or whatever. Like, well, you know what I mean. Like, so
Yeah.
obviously we have slight that now with the status effects, and I think that that is the most cosmetic differences we're ever going to get with gear.
Um. You think so, eh?
I think that for example, an exotic gives Cap his triangular like shield. I can't see it. I think it's one of
Okay.
them things where it's like, how do you do that to pieces of gear and not others? I
Sure.
think of it from I do think of it from a development standpoint. I just think how fucking annoying it must be to do that for like a handful of gear pieces when you're going to be collecting hundreds on end. Like, if you do it for exotics, you have to kind of implement that entire system into the game to even make slight
Oh, like
changes,
all the way down, right? So like
even way down.
legendaries,
Yeah.
epics,
So,
rares,
because
commons.
imagine how much work it's going to be to do exotics that some people aren't even going to be able to get, so they can't appreciate it.
Right.
And to me, it's like it seems unfair not that anyone's expecting anyway, but like unfair for them to be working really hard on and using these resources and things that can go into better things just so someone can get a triangular shield that might not even be a good gear piece for their build, so they just get rid of. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, no, you're onto something there. To me when I read this, um, to me I was like, yeah, this definitely sounds cool. When it comes to like changing out, um, when it comes to changing out, a legendary sniper rifle to replace your rare SMG or whatever, I'm thinking about all the other item pieces that that like have to be made in order to kind of support that change in gameplay, right? So it's like, maybe you have a build that supports your SMG. Now you got to come up with a build that supports your sniper. And to your credit, actually, Widow is very easy to kind of do this for. Maybe Iron Man too. Like you get different gear pieces that like support a rocket build or a laser build or
Well,
a beam build, right? So like,
just to cut you off really
mm,
quick, just to add like help your point a little bit.
yeah,
I have a sniper widow build without a sniper. I use the high
mm,
caliber pistol and I aim for headshots and I get like 400k. That to me is like, okay, why bother with a sniper if I can just make one? The
sure,
gun that I have.
yeah,
I don't like, and it's like, okay, you aim down the scope and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but why would I do that when the pistol's the better alternative anyway, the high caliber
mm,
one? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, put that in an exotic, sure, but then why would I choose to aim through a scope, in an area where enemies are coming at me from every single direction when I can just hop out of that high caliber, boom, boom, but you know what I mean? Like, and I
yeah.
think that I like the idea of it looking cosmetically different, but I think that if any cosmetic differences are going to come to weapons, it will be via like a marketplace kind of thing. But then not every hero is going to be able to have that because, like, for example, how do you change Iron Man's repulsors? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what, you change his hands and not the rest? It's a
You could
weird
change the
thing.
color. You could change the color, like you
But
could
that
change.
status effect changes the color.
Yeah.
So it's so
Yeah, sure.
what's the point in making that difference if it's already in the game in some way? And I know that's really boring. I know it's quite miserable being a shit on everyone's hopes and
No,
dreams.
I mean
And I'm
like
sure that I'm sure
you're
the comments are gonna be like "fuck you," but like it's just it
yeah,
just
I
it
mean you
is
do
what
raise a
it
good
is.
point that like there's a little more work involved than maybe it seems, and like the potential benefits aren't necessarily there. You know what I mean? Like you're not wrong. I mean, even though you're kind of, pissing over everyone's parade on this one, you're not necessarily wrong on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you think about it, like you got to create a whole itemization system that supports changing out these weapons, like you got to do that. Then you got to create like the animations for a sniper rifle or an SMG at that point. Like there's a little bit more involved, than it does seem on the surface level.
And
It's
and,
not. It's
and the
not.
thing is,
Mm.
sorry, for
No,
people
go.
that
I've
do
cut you off
want a
enough times
sniper,
today.
for the people that do want a sniper rifle, for example, when Winter Soldier comes out, maybe he's got one. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's the reason that I like this. They want to release more characters that are going to have differences. So, like, it seems weird to me to have gear pieces that are going to change these things if we're going to be introducing new characters that may
Yeah.
already have those things.
Well, yeah. If you get characters that fill these kind of roles that you're looking for, then you don't necessarily need to go back and update these characters, right? The whole thing when I think about characters, every character needs a role to fill in. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the problem. Like, this is kind of tying into like what I said, kind of going into like my 2021 video, right? Is that characters need a role to play within a team. Right now everyone just builds for damage. So it's like, which character do you want to build for damage? And maybe when Omega level threats come out, it's which character can tank, which character do you want to do damage? Like the build diversity will be there a little bit, but when you start talking about other characters, the problem is like there's not really defined roles within these characters. What character does this really well? What character does this really well? Like almost all the characters do everything pretty well. Maybe there's like one or two that probably do something just a little bit better, but at the end of the day, they all do the same thing. So it's one of those things where it's like, how do these characters that are coming differentiate from the ones that are already here? And with that being said, are you able to kind of craft their own little space within these to still make them feel good to play, but also not making them feel like they're just kind of a repeat of something else? And it's tough because like, yeah, Winter Soldier could definitely have a sniper rifle, could have a grenade launcher kind of thing, and those feel different. But it's just one of those things. What role is he going to play that maybe pulls someone from Black Widow to him, other than just being Winter Soldier? Essentially, is it the aesthetics? Is it the sniper rifle? Um, and it's tough, you know. It definitely is tough because if people wanted Black Widow with a sniper rifle, why bring out Winter Soldier? Just put all the animations on Black Widow at that point, you know?
Well, I think we know already by how Clint and Kate play that there are going to be great differences. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
I'm not even talking about like echo character, like them being echo characters. I'm just talking about like them filling like the same role. You know what I mean? Like Clint and Kate are different enough to the point. Well, I would say different enough, but like it's not like one of them is like a big AOE damager versus like a solo damage like a solo DPS, for example. You know what I mean? Like,
I
yeah, Clint
don't
has more AOE
know.
effects to it, but it's this is like this is a conversation I would have to think about a little bit more, because when we start talking about like gear and characters and the roles they play, yes and no, that like, you know, I look at some characters and I'm like, yeah, they all do the same thing really well. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
All
know.
right. Okay. All right. So let me just try and like. Okay. So obviously, at the minute, people go for damage. A lot of the
Yes.
reasons we see big damage stuff is because that's the way forward for like videos and stuff like that, right? That's what gets people going, "Wow, that's so
Sure.
sick." But Kamala can be a support. She can be a range. She can be. Do you know what I mean? There are things that people can fit in. Like for example, my Hulk is a support character because he spawns orbs like mental. So
Right.
obviously, like I stacked on heroics. I'm still doing the thing to spawn orbs. My teammates can pick them up. They've got all their heroics, right?
Sure.
Or you can change it so that like say you've got Cap, right? You're doing his Brooklyn Brawler thing.
Yep.
Rather than spam for damage, you can spam to do as little damage. So when you get them down enough to do the 30% takedown thing, you can get as many takedowns in as you want to spawn as many regen packs. So you're fucking constantly giving your team like health packs, right?
Mhm.
And that's the thing, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's not exactly in your face, but if you and like I really, this is going to sound really patronizing, and I hope it's not going to be. If you just use a little bit of imagination, right? And
Mhm.
you look
Mhm.
outside the box from what you know, and you think to yourself, there are more roles that these characters can play. Like there are glass cannons, there are absolute boss destroyers, but you can go simpler than that.
But is
So
there a reason to?
not yet, not
Okay.
yet. But
Okay.
obviously, we've known from like we know that OLTs are coming. For example, like say when say the one we saw thank on Miller's stream. I don't know
It's
who
Cloning
originally
Labs.
posted it.
It
Yeah,
was
Cloney
it
Labs.
was the Italian. It was an Italian content creator.
Yeah. So obviously we know that there's a part in that where like you've got to stand on this platform. Your teammates go in. One of them
Mhm.
pulls the little battery thing out. You got to smash that up, and you've got to stay on it when everyone's jumping on you, right? So instantly you've got like you need someone who's a tank or has a lot of health on there, right? You need someone. So say it's 4 people because you're not going to need 3 others in there.
Sure.
um you've got someone else trying to almost defend the person on the pad. So maybe for that one, you'd go damage. And the people
Right.
inside of it, ideally, you've got to have someone who's maybe support. So say you get Kamala in there. So just in case the zap doesn't kill you, but really hurts you, maybe
Mhm.
it's Kamala, you're in there with the person who's smashing it up so you can heal them straight away. There's a reason for these things. And I think that LTs will be the thing where it's like, okay, I'll get my friend in. So I know I know you do support, so you get a lot of orbs. We need heroics. I've got high valor, but I don't have that sort of heroic orb build. Do you mind jumping in with me? We could really sync together quite well. I know that your character doesn't have a warm battery effect, but it has a cold. Well, I have a warm, so if I shoot my arrows and you've got Tony with a cold thing with battery effect, we'll do a lot of damage together, right?
Mm.
Um, like obviously we know that there's team up moves. So if Tony shoots his unibeam on Cap's shield, gives him a damage buff, does a lot of damage. So you might want 2 people who main those two in there, you
Mm.
know. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's not the most versatile in your face in the world, but it does support it as long as you just like. So like I know that there's a friend of mine that does like a sniper build for Kate. So pins on the wall so that like oh, you pin and then pins to the wall. So if it's a hard enemy, you can beat up the minions around it, then go back to the more difficult enemy. So if it's an adaptoid surrounded by mini little synthoids, right? So
Right.
obviously, and there's a reason for that. It's a reason to take out the little minions and then group up on the bigger guy. You know, and obviously it might not be the most impactful build. It might not be the one that makes people go, "Oh, that's amazing!" But at the same
Right.
time, a lot of those big, powerful damage builds get knocked down after 3 hits. So, like,
Well,
you know what I
let me
mean?
let me let me ask you then.
Okay.
So, how would you like to see gear moving forward support more of this play style? So, I'm gonna take a little bit of that second question here and just kind of change it a little bit. Like, what would you like to see out of Gear 2.0 that would really support those kind of play styles and really kind of give more incentive to run some of these lesser damage builds, but provide more utility, for example?
Well, you know how Kamala has a few gear pieces that's like when you like there's
I've never
I'm
played
trying to think
Kamala, so
I'm trying
you're
to
asking
think
the
of the
wrong content creator, my
I'm trying to
friend.
think I'm trying to think of the exact perk. But
Mm-hmm.
basically there's a lot of team perks that are like, oh, you like heal a team member and this will
Mm-hmm.
happen, right?
Right.
And I think that gear perks like that reward you for healing players and give you like so say oh you so say you Clint and you use a healing and obviously, we know in his skill tree, there's like things like, oh, if you're in the healing bubble, you get more critical attack chance or something like that. But we're talking about gear, more
Mm.
gear that supports those different things. So, like, I think for this one, maybe a thing of like, oh, if you and another person do an heroic at the same time, it does even more, damage together, and it makes like a synergy type thing. So you want to give more heroic orbs to your mate is maybe lacking when you get to the bosses, right? Or there's something like that. It is difficult. It is difficult, but I
Yeah.
think the perks that just reward that kind of play would probably
So
be a
you're
good
so you're, so
idea.
you're just generally speaking, you're looking at perks that kind of reward playing together than just playing as a solo in a
Yeah,
group before.
yeah.
Like okay,
So
I mean,
so
yeah.
obviously at the moment you can battery affect yourself. I don't think that was the original intention. I think the original intention was it to be like, okay, I have cryo.
Oh yeah, I
I'm going to play with
agree.
someone who
Yeah.
works with plasma. We're going to
Yep.
work together, do the battery effect. So, I mean, in the future, maybe there could be a way to really reward someone else applying it and then you applying it. Maybe it's like just 2 times as strong as when you do it on your own, sort of thing. So it rewards the fact of like, okay, I have a cryo character, you have a plasma character. Let's go ham. You know what I mean? And reward that with more damage, maybe, or
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, I think what you're gonna see in the future is as OLTs come out and raids come out, you're definitely gonna see a like team kind of like teams built around the battery effect, like on different characters. You know what I mean? Like these
yeah.
characters, this character is more exposed to this one, this character, this one, and because of that, you're gonna see team builds rather than solo builds. And I would like to see items that kind of fulfill that. You know what I mean? Like I want to see items that obviously work with more. And I've said this before. Like I want items with more active stuff. I want items that are not just percentage changes. But I also like items, as you said, that kind of incentivize teamwork and kind of incentivize working with someone else, whether that's like an extra fourth perk that says like do this thing with this character and you get this effect. You know what I mean? Like something like that would even work. Right now, what is that effect? What is the bonus you get from it? I mean, like leave it up to your imagination, but I think kind of mirroring the team play aspect and mirroring the new itemization in the gear system together is a good way to incentivize team play, and it's a good way to incentivize actually like theory crafting with other people, theory crafting team builds, theory crafting how you're going to approach a raid. Like there's all sorts of things that you can do without changing the characters too much to kind of come together and kind of make this a more cohesive experience with your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So
I agree.
yeah. All right. So let's talk Spider-Man. So another question here from Cage: Do you think
Spider-Man.
CD?
How you doing?
Do you think Crystal Dynamics will make Spider-Man on par with expectations, or no? What do you think?
Well, what's the expectations? Is it if it's Spider-Man PS4? No. Do you know what I mean? Like what we
Yeah.
took because people have really mental expectations. So like
Right.
you're either talking Spider-Man PS4 like point 0.5, right? Which is not just not, or
It's
you're
not gonna happen.
talking
Yeah.
it's just literally
Or
not.
or is
Because
the
that
expectations like
game's made for him,
or
right?
or is the expectation like a fun Spider-Man that you can play? You know?
I mean, yeah, well, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I think that's a given, right? I
yeah.
think I've not enjoyed any character yet.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if your expectation is that you get a Spider-Man that you sit down feels like Spider-Man, and you kind of he punch yeah, well, yeah, right. I'm really aiming big here. IGN, hey, what's up? Like if you sit down, you play Spider-Man, and he punches like Spider-Man, he kicks like Spider-Man, he moves like Spider-Man, he's got abilities like Spider-Man. I think you're gonna be fine. If you're expecting like a certain level of depth that like a solo game offers, you're probably not gonna get it. But I think the history that they've shown with these characters here through 8 characters so far should leave you feeling okay about what you're going to get with Spider-Man. Like, you're not going to get like a cheap knockoff version of Spider-Man. You're just not going to get the in-depth that a solo game provides. And I think that should be expected. I think if you're looking at this going, I want everything 2018 has. Yeah, well, I want $1 million. Neither of us are going to get what we want at that point. But if you go in, you're
Well,
like,
the thing
I,
is,
yeah,
I can't for the life of me see why people don't want this Spider-Man to be different. Because like, if you want a 2018, go play 2018 one
But I
or the
think
remaster, or
people
whatever.
I think people want what they're familiar with. Like people are familiar and they're okay with what they got, so they're like, just take that and put it in here. It's not so much like it's just the familiarity of it all is what people like. Like they like it, it's there, they're used to it. To them, it's like like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? To an extent, that's kind of the point they're making. Unfortunately, it's not like they can just go over to Insomniac and just be like, hey guys, Spider-Man, yeah, we're actually gonna take him. Like unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm expecting some homages. Like, there's
Hmm.
takedowns in both games that I'm expecting to see very similar, like to
Oh yeah.
Insomniacs. As long as they don't overdo it, because you don't want that comparison thing, and it's already going to be compared. But if you make any kind of similarity, people are going to notice it. So it has to be a good one. Do you know what I mean? It has to be one that
Right.
really does benefit the character in a way. So say it's like, I don't know, one of his takedowns is the one in the 2018 version where he backflips on the shoulders and does like a reverse Hurricane Rana, right?
Right.
Like it's whatever. It's quite a Spider-Man takedown. Sure, why not? But if you're going for like the 9 yards, so like the suit looks ridiculously similar, if like one
Yeah.
of his heroics is a gadget bot like he's got in 28. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, guys. This
Yeah.
is why, and I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but I know I've said it to friends. This is why I want this Spider-Man to have no gadgets. I
Oh,
don't.
interesting.
I want it to be 100% old-fashioned, no gadget Spider-Man. I know. I mean, besides the web shooters, obviously.
Yeah. Well,
like,
I
like
think to the point, like this game wouldn't necessarily support the gadgets to the degree that 2018 would. No.
Well, when I say gadgets, I mean for the heroics and stuff. Like, I don't
Okay.
want gadgets for the heroics either. And by the way, the reason being for that is because if you want to change it up, make this Spider-Man in CD's universe be completely reliant on just having these superpowers. Because obviously he's ridiculously smart. We know this, but
Yeah.
like he doesn't have to have gadgets. Spider-Man
Of
never
course.
used to do the gadgets thing. Do you know what I mean? It was only recently we've really seen a lot of gadgets being used. So like, make it to a point where it's like, you know, we obviously make him have his own web shooters because the organic thing's weird, but besides that, I don't think we need to see another gadget bot, spider bot thing. I don't think we need to see any of these fancy things. Just make all of his heroics look flashy and involve web, and that's it. That's all. That's fine by me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
his combat is essentially flippy luchador style stuff. So there we go. You know what to look for. You've got many games to take inspiration from, many films, many comics, and that's kind of the beauty of it, is that like this isn't Spider-Man's own game, so people aren't shouldn't anyway, in my opinion, be expecting that much depth. So if you just take the best of everything and go smash right into
It should
into
work. Yeah.
Spider-Man with your own little twist to it, then you're done.
Yeah.
That's it. People will be happy. Like, and obviously, like, I'm not expecting wall combat like in Web of Shadows because no one else has that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
like, and that's the thing. Like, I don't expect Spider-Man to be swinging up from the wall, going down and doing a takedown on an enemy like he's the first one with stealth combat. No, I don't. I expect Spider-Man to be fast, quick, in your face, in and out type thing with. The only thing that I'm curious about is the
Yeah.
webs.
Sure.
How does that look? There's no status effect or element in the game that looks like webbing, right?
Right.
So
So
obviously
what do you?
cryo slows people down, but it doesn't look anything like webbing. So my worry is like they're having to design that either completely new or they just use the webbing only in heroics and the range is web balls that don't stick. They just
No,
like
I
hit.
imagine
Do
they'll
you know
just
what I
say.
mean?
I imagine they'll just say fuck it. Like it'll just be webbing, and then the whatever status effect is applied. Like I don't think they're gonna go too far into it. Where it's like, are you talking like webbing has to like look different colors, or like what do you?
No. So what I mean is like okay. So say for example, one of the a web option is like, or one of the heroics is like you web up a bunch of people in the room, right? You
Yeah,
just like the web cyclone thing from 2018. I
sure.
know, I literally just said, but
I
like
know, I know. Just use it for the
just a
example.
quick.
Use it for the example.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, what are the enemies going to look like? Are they going to be covered in web? Do we have a visual for that, or is it just going to be a status effect?
No, I imagine.
I'm fine with that, by the way. Like if they are just slowed down, similar to cryo, I'm fine with that.
No, they're gonna have to
But
do a.
will
They're gonna have to.
people?
They're gonna have to do a visual effect. There's no way. There's no way. You can't do
I'm saying
Spider-Man with no webbing.
the only reason I'm saying this because that is a really big different. It's not like anything they have in the game that they can just go, all
Yeah,
right,
I know what you're saying, but
let me stick it in, or
I'm
it will be a
sorry.
totally new design thing.
Spider-Man fans are like, and I love you guys, so I hope you don't come after me. They're rabid animals. If you don't have,
Busted. No.
if you don't have Spider-Man, if you have Spider-Man with no webbing, they're gonna be pissed. Like they're pissed.
I'll be pissed.
You know what I mean?
I'll be
like,
pissed.
yeah.
I want to see
Even
webs.
casual,
Like,
casual Spider-Man fans would be pissed because it's like to at that point it looks half-assed. It does. Like if you have no webbing in the game, it looks half-assed. So for me,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would expect him to shoot out webbing, but will the enemies look webbed?
yeah, no, they're gonna look webbed. Yeah, 100%. There's no way on this planet that I see Crystal Dynamics in a meeting. All right, they're in their Zoom calls. They're going, all right, guys. So we're gonna do Spider-Man, and say for example, you hit this button, and he webs the enemies, and the enemies are gonna have no webs on them, and they're all standing around there going, "That's a great fucking job. That's a $1 million idea." Yeah, fucking right. That's not gonna happen. If it happens, I will walk my ass on. I will live stream my apology, 100%. If they even think that's a good idea, I will live stream my apology because that is mind blowingly just whoosh, like,
The reason I mention it is because it's a genuine fear of mine because I can't think of anything in the game that resembles it at all. So that's something brand new that they have to
yeah,
introduce
and
for
they're gonna have
Spider-Man.
to.
And yeah, I agree that like he needs to be able to web the enemies and it looks like web. But I think that one thing that scared me about that it's a fake leak, but one thing that the fake leak from 4chan made me realize is that are they gonna go for that really simplistic route of yes, the webs come out and it looks nice, but is it just gonna be a slow status effect?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Sony pays for this character. I don't think Sony pays for this character, and you give a half-ass version. Not a chance. Not a chance. Like
it's terrifying as a
have to
Spider-Man
understand.
fan.
Well, I understand, but you have to understand. Like Sony is gonna get first look at this. You know what I mean? Like Sony is gonna look at this and be like, "This is not what we paid for." You know what I mean? Like it's not it's not just like Crystal and Square and Marvel Games. Marvel Games is also gonna look at that and be like, "What the fuck you guys thinking?" Right? Like Spider-Man is the premier character of Marvel, right? You could throw around a bunch of other names, but it is Spider-Man. So to a degree, there's a certain level of respect that you have to give the character and a certain level of authenticity you have to give the character as well. If you don't give it, you're pissing off Sony, you're pissing off Marvel, and you piss those two off together, and you're literally Mecha Godzilla and you're fighting Godzilla and King Kong together at that point. Like you might as well just give up because you can't do that. Like I understand the fear, but this isn't like, Crystal is just kind of throwing some shit out there and like the community is just like, what the fuck? Like you're talking some mega corporate, like some mega companies, man.
As a Spider-Man fan, I searched the Spider-Man Twitter, and I know that if this was a thing, which I don't believe it is. Yes, it's a little fear in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that if it does, like say the trailer releases, they show gameplay. If
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, I'm going to your fucking DMs. I'm gonna be like, this is your fault. Like,
I
you
don't
didn't
see it
prepare
being
me
that
for
way, man.
this.
I don't see it being that way. Like I said, if that's the thing, I will come on and live stream my apology because to me, that is lazy and that is half-assing a character that deserves a little bit more than a half-ass attempt. And we've never seen them half-ass a character. You could talk story, you could talk level design, you could talk character skins, you can name a bunch of things, and there's a lot of people who will name a bunch of things and say that's half-assed. The one thing they have not half-assed is character design and character moves and the whole combat system. So for me, if they start going, yeah, we're gonna half-ass Spider-Man, dude. Fuck Spider-Man. Fuck him. And like to me, oh, like you're playing with fire, my friend. Like that. No, don't do that.
By the
So
way, I
yeah,
don't mean to scare people with this very small potential thing.
yeah,
I
okay,
just think that yeah, I'm trying to get you your title, mate. All right.
yeah,
But like I said, as someone who stared at that fucking 4chan leak, even though it was fake, obviously, I was thinking to myself, like, is there anything that they may have predicted that could be a thing? So I looked through it the other day. I was thinking to myself, like, is there anything that is on there? Because we know it's fake, so it's obviously like
yeah.
predictions and concept in their head. So I was thinking, is
Right.
there anything actually good on there that I would like to see? And when I saw the
Sure.
web status effect, I was like, oh fuck.
I don't disagree that like there could be a web status effect, but I think that would also tie into them being visibly webbed. You know what I mean? Like there has to be something visual to it. Yeah, it can't just be like the status effect in there. Like there has to be a visual aspect to the webbing on the enemies, or else it's really
I
gonna be
love
shit.
I love the thought process of shooting out a web that's
Hmm.
covered in PIM particles. It's like
Yeah,
the web's still there, but it's like glowing with PIM, and
yeah, that's what I thought you were
it's so
talking
great,
about.
right?
That's what I thought you were talking about when you're talking about the status effect. I was like, oh, like webbing that's like colored different based on the status
Oh no,
effect of
it
the
would
gear.
definitely.
Like,
I think whether it appears on the enemies or not, that's a given, right?
yeah,
I think that, but my only fear, and I genuinely think this would really suck the life out of even me as being a big Spider-Man. I mean, I still play it. I'm going to
yeah,
pretend I'd boycott, but like, just like as a big Spider-Man fan, the fantasy obviously is webbing people up and seeing them webbed. You know what I mean? Like
right, yep,
because I think, for example, I think one of his moves will be, so like his range power attack will probably have an option where you can pin enemies to the wall, right, and they're
mm,
webbed up. But obviously, like if you can keep them there for as long as you want. Maybe there's like there's something. Maybe it takes a long, long time, and you can't do it to the
right,
bigger enemies. So obviously, I think the web effect is so important. But I also think like they can't half-ass even it if they do that as well. So, for example, if I web
right.
someone to a wall, that bitch better be covered in webs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It better
I
not have like
agree. I agree.
one string of web across. It
Yeah,
needs to be like splattered against the wall with it. You
I
know what I mean? Because
agree.
if you're gonna, if even if they were put in a really awkward situation where right before launch close to launch, they were like, right, Spider-Man. They've still got to do it. They've got to pull
Yep.
this out the bag because a lot of people have bought the game or gonna buy the game for Spider-Man. It's just the way Spider-Man is. He's a merchandise
Yep.
machine. And if you make his stuff look ugly, say even the enemies do have webs, but if you make it so that like they have like two strings of web, people are just gonna be like, "Well, that's ridiculous."
Listen,
just step out of it.
here's what I will say. Spider-Man fans are really loyal. You do Spider-Man really well, and those fans will stand by your game. Fucking good or bad, just based on the execution of Spider-Man. You could have the game burning down around you, and you do a fucking amazing Spider-Man, and they will be like, "Yeah, Avengers fucking there's some shit that sucks about it, but they did
Well,
Spider-Man really
here's the
fucking
thing.
well."
Like that's you're spot on with that. So like, say for example, Spider-Man comes out, it's perfect,
Yep.
right? And I'm probably going to be responsible for doing this as well, which is why I'll probably have to leave the podcast once he comes out. Is that like any bad thing that Avengers does, Spider-Man fans will shrug and go, "Oh, I don't care. I've got Spider-Man. He's pretty cool."
Yep.
Like that's it. And that they are going to do. I'll do that. Like I'm going to give an opinion across. But if you told me, do you hate the game all of a sudden, say they do something ridiculous, like
Yeah.
terrible, I'd be like, oh, I've got Spider-Man, I don't care. Like, I'll
But
shrug my shoulders and be like, I'm looking for an exotic, bro, shut up.
well,
Like,
but on the flip side of that though, if Spider-Man's done really bad, those same fans
oh,
will
wait.
amplify everything else. You know what I mean? It's not about ignoring
That could,
it's
that's
it's not about
crazy.
ignoring everything else because of Spider-Man. It's now they're going to amplify everything else because their Spider-Man is bad. You know what I mean? So in a way,
Uh,
there's a lot riding on this because and I'm not once again, I'm not trying to pick out Spider-Man fans, but I know you guys are super vocal, right? Like I have number one Spidey fan that comes into my stream chat. This dude is one of the most knowledgeable people on Spider-Man. Like there are people out there that really love Spider-Man and really want to see an incarnation of Spider-Man that does the character justice. And if they do, then everything else is just kind of water under the bridge. But if Spider-Man's really bad, that bridge is falling apart and that water is becoming like rushing
Here's the
river,
thing
you
as
know?
well, is it's not just Spider-Man fans. Because we've seen it, right? We've seen that people from other consoles are like, where's Spider-Man for the
Mm-hmm.
PS boys? Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like you've not just pissed off Spider-Man fans, you've pissed off the PlayStation users that bought the game on that console, and you've also annoyed everyone else because it's like, so we don't so like he's shit on that console and we didn't even get to like try it. Are you great? Like
Well, yeah,
whereas
well, cause, yeah, sorry, go.
if he's really good, at least you've got a thing of like, okay, GG, at least you didn't half-ass this exclusive. Do you know? At least it
Yeah.
wasn't literally a cash grab and that's it. PS people are happy. Spider-Man fans are very happy, like myself. Other
Yep.
consoles are probably happy for us at this point because they're just over it. And
Well,
it's like
yeah.
you've got a really good happy fan base. And the thing is, Spider-Man fans, as we've seen with the sale numbers for Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales, like, jeez, if you
Yeah.
make the Spider-Man fans happy, that's it. Yeah, I think you've sold your game.
Well,
Like,
and to your point, imagine Spider-Man's done really badly. That's all everyone's going to talk about for the next like 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You know, imagine being an
yeah,
Xbox player and the conversation is around Spider-Man. Like they're just going to be fucking tired of it, right? Versus Spider-Man's done really well. People are excited. You get maybe a month of it and then people, you know, there's the conversation kind of moves along at that point, right? It's like, you know what I
people are
mean?
just collecting gear and enjoying themselves. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Exactly.
and the thing is, like, if Spider-Man's bad, I'll be disappointed because he's and like again, I bought the game for Avengers. Like, I pre-ordered it before August when Spider-Man was announced. But when Spider-Man was announced, you can bet your shit. I ran it. I was telling my parents like, yo, you're never gonna guess what I've got Spider-Man in this Avengers game. We're gonna be able to fight next to Iron Man, Cap, Hulk. I get to be Spider-Man in this game as well. Are you mad? Like,
Yeah.
this is great. And then obviously, you know, and it was like I'm just so excited to be able to build Spider-Man up with exotics and gear and get
Mhm.
these cosmetics and nameplates and stuff. Like it will genuinely, I'll probably lose all my money when he comes out because I'm gonna wail. Like
Yeah.
and it's just and it is just a thing. Like out of all the characters in the game, I'm excited for the dude who's exclusive because he's
Yep.
fucking Spider-Man. Do you know?
Yep.
He's like, and that name alone tells people everything. If someone says, "I am looking forward to Spider-Man, exclusive or not, Avengers game or not," you can't say otherwise because you know who that character is. It's fucking Spider-Man.
Right.
Like, and it's
True.
like I'd understand if you could sort of understand if it was like, oh, trying to think of a small character no one to hate me for.
Oh, they're all
Uh,
gonna hate you for one of them. Just say one.
oh
Just say
no,
one.
Cyclops.
Shut the fuck up, dude. All right, say Jubilee for example. Like, when's Jubilee been in something exciting? Say Jubilee. Don't say Cyclops, you fucking dork.
Mate,
The
you call me
leader
a
of the
dork.
X
We're
Men is
talking about.
a smaller character.
He's kind of a dork, to be honest.
All right, we're moving on. Anyways, I'm done. I'm so done with you. Okay. Final thoughts. Let's wrap this up. Let's wrap the Spider-Man stuff up. Do you think Crystal Dynamics will make Spider-Man on par with expectations or not?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say as long as your expectations are that this is a new incarnation of Spider-Man and this is in 2018, yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Two more
Yeah.
questions. How do you feel about the idea of Echo Fighters? Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me reread this. Oh my God, my English. How do you both feel about the idea of Echo Fighters now seeing how long it may take between characters? If CD could effectively visually change all of Iron Man's abilities, voice, and animations to that of a minor character like Rescue, Think of it like a premier skin from Injustice 2. Would this be something you'd be interested in the spice of gameplay? So, yeah, I mean,
like I know I sort of I know that's again that's not like the most deepest answer in the world, but it's like
yeah,
does anyone even like want those minor characters? Like, are they that dead? Like, and I know there's people out there, of course, that are gonna want the characters like Rescue, for
sure,
example. But is anyone really like thinking to themselves, "I want the devs," even though it is something as simple in the scope of things as changing the visuals, changing the voice, stuff like that. Do
mm,
people really want the devs to take a little bit of time to do like a character like Rescue? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, if it's a bigger character, to say for example, our Winter Soldier and Widow chat, if Winter Soldier was literally an Echo Fighter of Widow, I think people would hate that because Bucky's his own character.
character,
People are
yeah.
big entity, you know what I mean? But if you're sort of going for like Rescue, it's like really like it's all right.
Sure.
Do you know? I don't care. Like, and
I'll,
that's again. I'm
yeah.
sorry. What were you gonna say?
No, you're good. Continue. You're good. I thought you were gonna
So
end it.
like, so obviously, like with War Machine,
Hmm.
we know that he's gonna have gameplay different. He's got different weapons to him and stuff like that. Like,
Right.
there's gonna be elements that are different because they are different people. Even though obviously
Sure.
Rescue's a different person as well. But I mean, like in regards to the armor and stuff like that, there's more that you can do there. But I think with like a character like Rescue, for example, or Patriot, there you go for Cap, for example, you wanted to add Patriot. It's like what's the point? Do you know, like they're
Sure.
not going to change drastically to the story. It's not going to really mean anything when they're out. It's another character that's an Echo Fighter that you're going to have to buy reskins for. like,
No, sure. I mean,
like it's
yeah.
and I don't think to ruin people's hopes and dreams of having those minor characters in, but the Echo Fighters aren't going to be a thing, in my opinion, unless they're literally essentially going to be the same exact thing anyway. Like there is
Well,
no way you can creatively change that up.
well, yeah. And to that point, why not just make them like skins? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah. At that
Why not
point,
just make them skins? Yeah.
why not just make them skins, right? So you have a Rescue Iron Man skin, you know, that
Yeah.
changes everything there, and at that point, just wrap it up. I
Call
think
it an
what you're,
exotic skin or something. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think what you're
Yeah.
gonna see is you're gonna see a lot of these smaller characters actually do become team ups. Like they're gonna
Or
become
summons, yeah, summons and
summons.
stuff.
Yeah, I've been saying that. I think like the door's open on this one. So like if the door's open, you should start suggesting characters that you want to see as summons because this isn't going away. This is them. This is number one, right? You don't implement something like this just to do a one and done. So like if you want to see some of these smaller characters, like I don't think you'll ever see like a Winter Soldier. I have suggested War Machine could be one, right? Depending on the work that's done and what their plans are. But I think there's
Yeah.
characters in the roster that maybe you've seen from that 19 character leaked list or whatever that could theoretically work as a summon, you know? Or if you wanted to, some of them could actually work as an exotic skin for some of these existing characters. I think there's room to maneuver in both of them without taking the time needed to make them, you know, standalone characters. And I think at that point, I think more people would be happy with the exotic skin than with the summons themselves. But I think the door is open
Yeah.
on both ends, you know, essentially.
I think that like you could treat exotic skins as the Echo Fighters
Yeah,
exactly. Like so,
yeah.
so when Captain Marvel comes out, if you're thinking to yourself, if the CD are thinking to themselves, right, we don't have any fucking work on Marvel, right? So what should we do, guys? Should we just like dump the everything else into an exotic skin, make them pay like
Mm-hmm.
20? Like,
Yep.
yeah, sure, why
Yeah.
not?
Why not?
There you go, done.
Yeah.
There you go, sorted. People will pay that because it's technically a new character.
Mm-hmm. People will
you know,
listen. If there's anything I know is that if exotic skins done right, that they change the appearance to be another character, I know my dumbass is gonna pay money. I did it with Marvel Heroes. Like, if anyone
yeah,
remembers when those skins came out, you know, I lined up. I remember I bought that fucking Ant-Man one, classic Ant-Man, and I never took that shit off. And like, if they did it into this game, for example, you get Scott Lang, right? But they gave you Hank Pym's costume, and they said, "Hey guys, here it is. It's $20." Yeah, I'm fucking lining up. Unfortunately, I know some of you guys are gonna hate me for it, but I'm lining up for it. You know, like I'm there, credit card in hand, saying, "Crystal, please." And I know that I'm not the only one. So for me, it's exotic skins or it's summons for a lot of these smaller characters, and depending on
Exactly.
who
Yeah.
you ask, it's going to be a different answer. But I think those are the two kind of variations you'll get out of it.
Yeah. Like I know that Red Hulk was rumored to be a boss in this game at some point, but if they decided to scrap that idea, then that's another exotic skin right there.
Make it a skin, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
there you go.
I think the
There we
problem with
go.
Red
See,
Hulk though is that he does have some abilities that Hulk doesn't have, and so you start wandering into the territory that, like, if it's not a 1-to-1, can you do an exotic skin for it?
uh,
You're just gonna say yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I figured
Like,
as
because
much.
no, because right, realistically, if they have no intention, like say they've scrapped the idea of having him as a boss, and
Mm,
they're not going to have him as a summon, I cannot see it. I just don't. I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
why.
I don't,
I
I
just
don't, I
cannot.
don't
I
see
just
it
can't
either.
see it.
Yeah, okay.
So you might as well just dump him on the shop and be like, okay, so in their minds they're thinking, right, okay, so we've had all this made, but we're not going to really use it. So why don't we build upon it a little bit more, enough
Mm,
to make him visually done, and enough to give him a bit more to him, and then shove him on the shop. Hulk.
yeah.
That's it.
I,
That's
I
all they
don't
could
see
do.
I don't see I don't see also
$20.
him being on the shop as like them closing the door on that forever either. You know what I mean? Like, just because like a villain is a skin doesn't mean the villain is gone from being a villain essentially either.
We did just have Maestro recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and
and we're going back to the wasteland in the future. So who knows?
there we go. I
There
think
it
we've
is.
cracked it. I think we've just
We've
given them money.
I think I'll take a royalty check, and then you can take a royalty check, and
Yeah, well, speaking of that, mister, I've got all these sponsorships on Twitter. I'm waiting for my payment. What are you on
anyways,
about?
moving on, guys. So the next question here
Yeah.
is, I've had a lot of questions when I put this out, talking about the future of the game, whether it's, kind of the rest of the year or year two. So kind of to answer where the future of this game is going, um, I think, like, if you're looking at the roadmap and you're thinking like this is it for the year, no, it's not. You're gonna get there's another Square Enix presents in the summer, so you'll probably get more announcements regarding Marvel Avengers within that announcement. So if you're looking at the roadmap and you're thinking that's it, it's not. If you're kind of wondering what's next this year, I think you'll see operations come back. I think what they're doing is they're probably just loading up on content first half of the year. Second half of the year, you'll see like characters come back. I think you'll see like a Winter Soldier this year, and maybe a She-Hulk, but I think it'll be like one more character. If you're not talking Spider-Man, if you're talking Spider-Man, it's two more characters. And then you'll see some other little content drops and stuff like that. I think if you're looking at year two, I see another expansion. I see a Captain Marvel expansion, to be honest with you, on par with War for Wakanda in terms of the content. And then
Yeah.
I see like more content drops and more characters. I think I like part of me wants to think, and you can chime in on this one. I'm stuck on the idea of whether they're gonna try and pump out a bunch of characters within a year, right? Like, realistically, what do we think for like characters? Like, is it like a character every 2 months, like on the best of days, or is it like a character like an operation every 3 months? Like, I'm stuck with trying to figure out 2022. What does it look like? Like, I see a Captain Marvel expansion, but like if it's like a character every 3 months, is it like two more characters and the rest is content drops, or is it like they try to fill in as many characters? And this is all thinking like everything goes back to normal next year. Like, I mean, if it's COVID still, like, you could probably wash all that away. So I'm going with the idea that things kind of return to a normal at that point.
I think they would want to sandwich content in between operations and then do
Okay.
an expansion to end the year off. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so say for example, we're in a non-COVID time.
Yes.
Think Kate comes out in December.
Yes.
We have Clint maybe like 2 months later. So that month after Kate, we'll get a little mini event content drop. You sandwich the content in between. And then after that, you have like a nice stack of nice content, you know what I mean, to catch up with the two characters that have come out quite close together. Then you have the
Sure.
expansion. Then you have the expansion to sort of, nice, maybe in the middle of the year, maybe instead. And then you do the sandwich again of operations. There might be a bit too much, actually. Maybe I'm putting too much on the shoulders. But, and then maybe like few months down the line another expansion, maybe. You know what I mean? Depending
Ooh,
on
that's a
like.
well. I mean, if this is non-COVID times, I mean,
So
yeah,
if it's non-COVID times, then there's probably going to be more like in one area, big maximum effort. Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure,
and I mean they
yeah.
put maximum effort in now, but what I mean is like it's more. You've
The
got
output
the
is higher.
technology there with you.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
output is higher. Yeah, sure. You put in the same
and
amount of effort, but the output is higher just due to external factors. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So like I think that probably have it so that it's like so. Say for example, in our actual timeline, Kate came out, then Clint came out, and then it's
Yeah.
big fat content and expansion. I don't see that being the thing they would want to go for, but maybe it is. Maybe this was always the plan. Two heroes, bunch of content, fat expansion. It kind of works. It makes sense. Because obviously Kate and Clint, we sort of assume was meant to come really close together.
They
So
were.
who?
It was Kate in October and Clint or sorry, yeah, it was Kate in October and Clint in November. Yeah.
Where was that? I was meant
Press
to always ask this.
it was a press release. It came out in the
Oh, okay,
September 1st. I went through it
okay.
last stream.
Oh, right, okay. Why did someone ask you? They were like,
Yeah,
"Well,
someone asked
fucking."
because obviously that conversation comes up a lot, like characters coming out every month or whatnot. So, yeah. So in the press release, September 1st, it was Kate launching in October and then Clint in November. Yeah.
Okay, so, well, obviously, assuming that they can do that sort of thing, because obviously, I imagine at that time they were probably meant to be clones
Yes.
still.
Probably. Yes.
So, so,
Yes.
so, like, obviously, that realistically makes sense because all you're really building then is the actual just cost, like the look of the character,
Yep.
and obviously everything else. I mean, I don't say just like it's fuck all, but you know what I mean.
Right,
Like,
but
there's a
like
lot less to it.
yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into the characters that has seemingly vanished at that point. Right.
Yeah. So like that makes a lot of sense. If you need like another month, if you're in the office, then that makes sense. So, but I think that when you've got this spare month, especially on a live service, and say we still have the content we have at the moment, and OLTs for some reason still have the problems that they do, so you can't just play them. You're in a situation where like. Well, but then again, at that point, people wouldn't have been bored, would they? Because it's not that much. It's not really far from September at all. So
No. Yeah, that's
you think,
like that timeline is totally different, man. Like that where
yeah.
that timeline if that goes like even with the say for example they still experience the OLT bugs, that's a totally different timeline because like you got to imagine like Cade in October, Clint in November, and then like you could probably theorize that maybe the OLT stuff is fixed by December with like a Black Panther release in like January or February. Like you're talking like the whole outlook of the game is totally different in that timeline versus like where we are now,
But
you
but
know?
then but then if they were able to release Clint a month later and he's a clone, would that not piss off people anyway?
Depending on like maybe I think probably, but I think it's tough because like if you wait 3 months for something and then essentially what you get is already what you got, I think the response is a little more negative versus like, the game just came out, we had your first DLC drop a month, and then a month later it's like, yeah, it's like a clone, but like you get new story and you get all these things like and you're 2 months out of launch, and that's even with
Uh,
I think people are upset, but I don't think people have the level of like anger that they would
then
have.
I throw over to you. It's like if Clint and Kate are pretty much carbon copies, what's the point in grinding up Clint? And we know how short Future Imperfect was. So if there is no grind for Clint because you think to yourself, what's the point? I'll go play as Kate. There's almost it's very very short. You know what I mean?
Right.
You'll play through
Yeah.
that story and you think to yourself, I'll just go back to Kate now, right? So I would have personally rather them take as much time. Obviously, I'm not saying you're saying they needed to rush it anyway, but I'm
Right.
saying that like in a timeline, I would rather them have been different and release a month or two later anyway,
Sure. Yeah. I
because
mean,
I prefer Clint. And it's
sure.
really funny that I prefer Clint when they were supposed to be completely the same anyway. And I
Right.
think that it gave a lot more respect to Clint fans, like and I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Like,
I just
uh,
think when content's pumping out at a pace that is like pretty good, I don't think people are going to be as like I said, I don't think people are going to like roll over and take it, but don't think the level of like the level of resentment towards it would be as high as like if it took 3 months, for example, right? Like
It's because people are being distracted by the new shiny content, though. But
Well,
when stuff
yeah.
started to go, so when stuff started to die down a little bit, people would look back and think, "Yeah, that's kind of shit." That Clint
Well,
was exactly the same. Like,
would in that timeline are OLTs broken or fixed? You know, that plays
I don't know,
that
man.
plays a huge
We're
factor.
messing with we're messing with the time more than
I know
Maestro here. Like,
I'm like the Flash over here. I'm sticking my dick in every timeline. But I mean,
you
like,
better stay away
essentially,
from my timeline, sir.
shut up. But essentially, like, what's happening is like, I think like in that timeline, that world, people are just more okay because content's coming out at a regular pace. You know what I mean? Versus now, because we're so starved of content, we're so starved of everything. Everything's put under a microscope. You know, everything is looked at with a degree of like, you know, critical like analysis that maybe isn't there if things are coming out at a regular pace because of that, right? And there's an argument to be made that like at the end of this game's lifespan, the bumps and the bruises that we take early on are actually going to be better for the game in the long run because Crystal actually took those lumps and took those bruises and actually learned from them versus like, you know, the content's coming at a regular pace, but maybe it's not the greatest, maybe it's, you know, it's not the most challenging, maybe it's not this, maybe it's not that,
I
you
would
know.
rather personally this game take the exact amount of time it needed to now if it meant the characters and everything could be as in depth as they are compared to what we thought they would have been a month later. That's
Sure.
and I know that's probably not the answer people
I mean, you're just
would kind of.
you're staying on point with your Black Panther analysis, right? Like you're not changing. Like, you know, you're logically consistent. Like
Well, no,
you just
it's because I want it all to feel in depth and deep. I don't want
right.
to like I want Crystal because I'm not as I've said before. I'm not the world's biggest Clint fan, but he has fans. I know this. Like, there's a load of
Yep.
people that love him, and if they're exactly the same, Kate and Clint, because they said they're going to release it a month later, and people are expecting it, then that's so shit for them. Like, that's
Sure.
not
I don't
fun.
disagree.
Like,
I don't
people
disagree.
and it's like, and imagine if it was an even more bigger character, like I don't know, I'm trying to think. Okay, Black Widow. There we go. Black Widow and well, no, because they're not really
Winter
that bigger.
Soldier. Let's hold on. Let me go into the realm of possibility. Think about Invisible Woman and Jean Grey. You know, two telepathic characters. You know, if there's differences to them, but if they go very basic with them, essentially you're almost looking at the same character playstyle wise. You know,
And how
so
fucking pissed would people be at
oh
that?
yeah,
even
people
if
would be
even
very
if it's
pissed. Yeah,
even if it's a month, and like as someone who enjoys the game as combat and stuff like that, I want to be able to experiment with a totally new move set.
hmm
I don't want. I feel like it's insulting to receive clones. That's why I was
sure.
so bothered by the fact that that was ever a mindset. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, that was ever thought about, and
I mean, yeah,
this is why I would say that I would wait as long as it needs to be to have them as in depth as they are, then have a shell of what it could have been had they actually given themselves enough time. Like, I know, and you got to remember as well, because it's we've got COVID and stuff like that. I imagine that when they're in the studio, it wouldn't be as much of a wait, but I would still have that wait to make the characters in depth and actually enjoy them. Than if they come out as shell characters. If Clint was a shell of, hey, I wouldn't touch him because what's the
right.
point? There is no progression there. I feel no enjoyment getting another Kate to 150. Whereas like now, because Clint is totally different, I want to go ranged. I want to go melee because I just unlocked the
hmm
Ronin skin. I want to go support for when ORTs come out. I want to experiment with different things, and I can't do that if I already know how to level up Clint because I've already done it a month earlier.
Sure. Yeah. But I also mean that's part of them changing their design philosophy too, right? Like to them it was reuse everything as much as they can to get as much like the mileage out of everything they've made. Now it's we'll make unique things because players want that. So like a lot of it comes down to them changing their design philosophy and that extends to the character design as well. So it's one of those things where I think you look at the COVID reality and like the COVID reality I think can also shape your development in some ways maybe it takes a little bit longer, but I think in some ways your players also end up with it. I'm gonna say a better product, and I hope people don't bite my head off for it because I hope they understand what I mean. Because there is a reality where Kate and Clint are clones, but because of the way things have kind of shaken out, we didn't get clones, and we're better off for it, even if it took a little while longer to get it. You know?
I think so. I think that like if this was what needed to happen for that shake of the tree to be like,
Hmm.
no clones bad, then
Yep.
good. We're gonna get a better game by the end of it. We are like, and when they get into the studio and stuff like that, and they're able to have all these things, but with a new design philosophy of like, okay, every character, everything we do's got to be nice, shiny, and different, especially if there's a weight between those things.
Yep.
Good. Take another month. And it's like, and the thing is, for people that are glued to this game and they're like, I can't, I'm not going to play anything different. Where the fuck's Clint? And if they released it as they were like, all right, fine, here's Clint Weather, and he's a clone, well, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, true.
Just, you know what I mean? If you don't want to play the game at the moment while you wait, then that's fine. You're not going to lose anything because Clint, for everyone, is going to start as level 0, power level 0. You know what I mean? We're all starting at the same place, so don't be afraid to come back. And I think that's all there is to it, really.
Okay. Last question. Speaking of power level 0, what is the next operation outside of Spider-Man after Black Panther at the end of the year? What do you think? Give me a character.
Invisible Woman, no. Cyclops, mate.
Okay, I'm going with a real answer and saying
he's gonna get wedgied in school. He's gonna get thrown in a bin.
I'm gonna say a real answer. It's gonna be Winter Soldier. Yeah, just to kind of top off the conversation here. If you're worried that nothing's coming to this game after Black Panther, I wouldn't worry. You're gonna see lots more announcements, lots more content, lots more characters coming to the game. I've been trying to tell people this. I know people have been super worried. I know people have looked at the roadmap and think like that's it for the year. That's not it for the year. I would do the walk of shame if it was. I really don't think it is. I think we'll
stop putting yourselves in these situations.
Hey, dude, if you look at the roadmap, I'm 1 for 1, and that's all that matters.
Okay.
All that matters is what did you do for me last. Whatever that saying goes. The last thing you did for me. The last thing I did is I called the roadmap. All right.
I swear,
I'm
if
1 for 1.
Spider-Man's webs are status effects, you lose any credibility in the future. I hate.
Listen, I'm not losing credibility. That's Crystal losing credibility. I'm sorry.
No,
that's lazy.
You're the one that's like, no, sorry, everyone.
Yeah, because that's lazy.
I'm High
That's
Ruler.
lazy.
I know what I'm doing. I make games. Like, so there you
okay.
go, man.
I'm just saying that's lazy. And if they did do that, they deserve every ounce of hate that they would get for it. Every ounce. I would not stick my neck out for them. Not at all. Like if they just make it a status effect and no visual effect, like get out of the way and just let them get it because that is lazy. And no one in their right mind would be able to defend that. I'm sorry. Like if you're defending that, if that was something you'd walk out into the street and defend, you got some blinders on. And I get called a shill, but I would like there's a level of shillness there, and I'm not even approaching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just saying.
For sure.
Okay, so I think that's it for today's episode, guys. Stardust, as always, you get the first crack at final messages, shoutouts, plugs. What do you got?
Woo! So, okay.
Yes.
I have an announcement.
Oh, okay. What do you got?
I wasn't going to announce it here, but I figured, why not? Let's do it.
Why not, dude?
So, when Tachyon Anomalies / Temporal Assault / whatever they decide to call it comes out, I will be doing a 12-hour stream on the Assemble for Charity channel for
hours.
National Eating Disorder Association.
Oh, that's really good.
I was going to wait till the branding was done so I could smack it on the actual page.
Okay.
But for people who watch, I think that this is something that I think is fair. Just giving pages isn't up yet. It's all been sorted out as we speak, so I can't promote that yet, sadly. But basically for backstory, because again, I know she doesn't mind. I've had this conversation. In fact, we picked it together actually.
Yeah.
Me and my fiance were looking through charities the other day, and her birthday is on April 2nd. So obviously, we assume the Tachyon things are coming out in April. That really backfire on me if it doesn't, by the way, because I was like, this is one of your birthday presents. No, I'm joking. So looked through it together, and obviously because the Cancer Fund for Children was based in Ireland, in the UK, we thought, right, no, we want to get everyone some love. You know what I mean? So we thought to
Yeah.
ourselves like, okay, so even though national is NIDA, right? NIDA, um, is based in New York, it's a national thing. So it's like, for the
Right.
entire world's research and stuff like that. So obviously my fiance used to suffer with an eating disorder. Still does, still has problems, stuff, but way more healthier now. And I'm really proud of her, to be honest. She's smashed it. And like, it's injustice of me to sit here and tell her story because it's her
Right.
story. So
Right.
all I'm gonna say is that. Do you know what I mean? But
Yep.
I really am underselling it. You know what I mean? So I've asked her if she wanted to come onto the stream and talk about it. She's up for it, so that's
Okay.
good. Obviously, So it's
So your fiance's real.
yeah, she's real, man. So I'm
That's
sorry
crazy.
to tell you that. I hate to tell
No,
you
that's
that, bro.
fine, dude. I'm happy for you. I thought she was like make believe. That's crazy.
It used to be my pillow, but then
Yeah, of course you upgraded, and obviously,
I got a body pillow now.
Yeah, I know you do. It's great.
It's got you on it.
Anyways, guys, that's it for the show this week. We are just about done with this episode of Avengers Weekly Recap. Stardust, would you like to say anything that isn't disgusting?
What's disgusting about a high ruler body pillow?
Where do I begin?
But no, come on, let's hash this out. All right, I've had enough of these back and forths that we have on Twitter. Why don't you love me? We do this podcast.
You do
like
realize this is Avengers Weekly Recap and not Jerry Springer, right? You do realize that it's we're this is a different audience, man.
yeah, well, we're not doing any baby reveals or anything, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
Listen, dude, I love you, just not that much. All right,
Guys, you said it, everyone. There we go.
I
Star
love you.
Rules,
I
thing.
love you
Wait,
as a co-host.
did anyone do any
No,
like
they didn't. They
fan
didn't.
fiction?
No,
That is
they all
gutted.
they all
I'm gonna have to
they all
I'm
said
gonna have
fuck
to do
you in the
one.
comments to your Black Panther thing. They decided.
I'm gonna have to do one myself.
That's great. I hope to never lay eyes on it.
So wait, I have a thing.
Oh no.
This isn't a weird thing, don't worry.
Okay, no, sorry, it's not weird. Go, let's do it.
I have a Mahusive video coming out soon
Yes.
that is gonna literally break people's brains.
Yes.
And I'm not even gonna go into what it is because I am so scared that I'll mention one word and people will be like and they'll fucking find it. So I'm gonna do the video as soon as this episode is over. But make sure to check out the channel.
Yes, I'll put Stardust's YouTube in the description below and stay tuned for that video tonight. I'm gonna push this episode out tonight, and are you gonna push your video out tonight?
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
yeah. Okay. Cool.
I'll do a bit more
research.
Test research. Yeah, there we go. And then I can make a script of it.
Perfect. Done. Easy like that. All right, guys. For me, myself, and I, obviously, thank you guys so much for watching, hanging out, and checking out the channel. If you like this kind of content, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If I can speak English, I've had an issue speaking lately, man. If you go back and watch the stream from Friday, my brain and my mouth were like disconnected. It was terrible. Like some days I wonder if like I'm even like a person anymore, Otherwise, guys, down in the description below, you'll see my second channel, Assemble Plus. I'm doing MCU stuff. I'm doing comic book stuff. That channel is slowly gonna start accumulating videos.
Hyrule has made an entirely different channel to get away from me, everyone.
Yeah. Welcome to Assemble Plus podcast, where we talk about so many other things without Stardust. So basically
that's rude.
So basically, it's just for all sorts of Marvel stuff that I'll be kind of building over the next few months. Weekly comic stuff, trades, stuff like that. So lots of cool stuff coming to that. Obviously, if you guys are here at the Assemble podcast channel, tomorrow night someone asked me to switch shifts. I said no. Means Marvel Mondays is on, guys. So tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live streaming.
Marvel Mondays, my
Marvel
favorite.
Mondays.
Sorry.
Marvel Mondays, man. No, I love it. Marvel Mondays are my favorite, man. I've told work specifically, Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays off. You can book me any other day, So thankfully they have, they book me on Tuesday, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and sometimes Sundays. So it's like I get my Marvel Mondays, I get my weekly block Thursdays, I get my dev stream Fridays. Perfect. I'm good, So I love how I base my work schedule around Marvel's Avengers. I am a loser.
I was going to say that you've got someone in Discord called Loser Scott, but I think Loser Hyrule, Loser John.
Yeah, that's it. I'm ending this show right now to go think about my life. Thank you. All right, guys.
I think.
Yes, please. Final words.
I think that something that could help.
Yes.
Is take some. Is have a nice cigarette.
This is weird,
of the
isn't it?
Have a ganja. Sit there, do some meditation, right? So, wait, actually, I do have a really weird question, right? Before we leave.
Yes, of course.
Do you think?
Yes.
Can Kamala turn? Can Kamala turn herself into a weed bomb?
No, dude.
No, because no. Listen, right? Say,
no,
say
dude.
for example, no. Listen. Say for example, Kamala could say she was into a bit of the Sweet Mary Jane, right? So you think to yourself, all right, so she fucking embiggens to turn into a massive weed bomb, right? And then she just puts the weed inside. No, wait.
I'm ending this episode, and you'll be very lucky if I don't cut this part out.
She can put it in her belly button and then light it, and then it
I'm so sorry to Logitech.
No, because think when you're that age, you just sort of want to experiment, don't you, with marijuanas and that.
Right. So you just do it like anyone else.
Yeah, but
I don't
she's
think
got
she can turn
superpowers.
herself.
That's boring.
I don't think she can turn herself into a bong, dude.
Imagine if Cat walks in, he's like, "What's that smoke, Kamal?" He fucking gives it to Boomer Cap. He's like, "Oh shit!" Fucking tries to throw his shield, just completely misses, hits the wall, bonks him on the head. He's like, "Fuck me, bro." I'm just totally fucked.
Stardust, I'm gonna ask you one last question today. Okay. Have you had any of the Mary Jane?
No, I haven't. I'm not. I am totally.
You're naturally this way.
My hand is raised. My hand is raised. I am a naturally good Christian child, and I don't partake in the things that Kamala Khan might be into. Okay, maybe Abu actually grows it. Right? Maybe he's like Pablo Escobar, but a sweet little man from New Jersey. And that's his disguise. He's actually an international drug lord. Abu.
You know, people from Crystal Dynamics actually watch this, right? You do realize that.
Yeah, so I'm giving them ideas. So for Halloween,
you're ruining. I'm trying to work my way in with them so I can bring them back. I can bring them on. So I can bring them on.
Right. Let me give an idea for a Halloween Marvel Zombies thing, right?
Oh no.
So Kamala could do a thick line of cocaine for Halloween.
No, we're done. We're done. I've cut Stardust off. I will see you guys next week for Avengers Weekly Recap. Stardust, I'm gonna unmute you, and all you can say is goodbye. 3, 2, 1.
Kamala's bug right.
Anyways, I unmuted him again. I muted him again. I will see you guys next week. Stardust may or not be here next week, depending on how many things he wants to talk about. But more than likely, he will be here next week because, unfortunately, I'm somehow married to him at this point. So we will see you guys next week. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you guys next time here on Assemble. Later.
Bye.
No, say it again. Now you're unmuted.
Bye.
There you go. All right, later, guys.